Throwing middle, caught inside the 5. Jahmyr Gibbs to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. 14 yards on the strike. Goff to Gibbs. You can't cover that man one-on-one. You just can't do it.
Nice job.
So it takes the snap back, looking, throwing middle. Got Amon-Ra inside the 2, to the 1, to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Amon-Ra, St. Brown. Amon-Ra, St. Brown.
Nice job.
Mariota's got it back. Pressure comes. He's hit. Slips out of it. Rolling to his right. Now he's going down. Brian Branch got him. Sack for the Lions. Snap taken by Mariota. Wants to throw it. Gonna get hit. Gonna get sacked.
Yes,
Take it down. Brian Branch got him second time today.
Nice job.
Hands it to Gibbs, running right, runs through a tackle, gets down to the 10, Gibbs to the 5, still fighting, down to the 2, down to the 1, to the end zone! Yes. Touchdown, Detroit Lions! He did not quit!
I don't get it.
Nice job.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again!
Found it. There we go. Sorry, guys. One sec. Good morning. Welcome into the Rise Grind Morning Show. It is Tuesday, and we've got gremlins in the studio, man. I think I just figured it out, though. Spent a lot of time yesterday trying to fix this audio issue so we could take phone calls today and not have problems, and it should be okay. Just give me a couple of minutes here on the back end. But anyway, welcome into the Rise Grind Morning Show. It's Tuesday morning. Yesterday, the Lions hired their offensive coordinator. I've heard you. I've seen it. I've read it. The meltdown. You're not going to like what I say today. If that's what you believe, is that this was a bad hire. I'm going to tell you why it was a great hire. And I'm also going to tell you why I am sick and tired. Absolutely sick and tired of the way that this fan base is behaving. I get it. You didn't get the guy that you liked. And I'm going to repeat myself. Yesterday, I said 2023's draft, the majority of people that are thinking that the Lions hiring Petzing was a bad idea also felt that Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, and Brian Branch were all bad ideas. At least you thought Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell and Sam Laporta were bad ideas. Why? You wanted a quarterback. You wanted an edge rusher. You wanted this. You wanted that. And you didn't get it. and you didn't get the edge rusher in free agency for 3 years in a row, and the guys that keep spewing this BS on their channels are wrong every year. It's time to start listening to people that know what the hell they're talking about. And it's not just this channel. It's not just me. It's not just Eric. There's some really, really good football knowers out there. You just have to find them. And I'll continue to share more information as I know about people to listen to, people to follow that actually have good stuff to say. Nothing is ever going to be perfect, but I'm going to tell you why. Eric's going to tell you why. Hopefully, we'll see what Eric says today. Why this was a good hire. We'll talk it out here in just a few moments. We'll be right back. Now, hopefully, the audios should be good to go.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning.
Sorry about that, man. I had some
That's all right.
some volume issues here in the back end. It wasn't muted, I guess. So I was replaying the morning show on the screen for some reason. But anyway, good morning, man.
Yeah.
Yesterday, finally the shoe dropped, man. I told you guys in the morning. If you remember, yesterday morning, you broke the news of the coach that was getting fired, and I'm like, well, I'm expecting somebody to get hired here today.
Yeah.
And then it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people were thinking it wasn't going to happen for a while.
Yeah, myself, I thought it was going to be another week or two. I thought they were really going to take their time on this one. So, unlike you, I probably have a much different view of this hire.
Now, is your view based on what other people are saying, or have you done your own research?
Nope. All on my own. My view is this.
Well, we'll get into Petzing in a minute. We want to start with NFL news today.
But I'm just, I have a really cool tidbit to go into, but I'm just a little more, I don't want to say optimistic. I'm more cautious than anyone going to the far left or the far right on, people that love it or hate it. I'm kind of right dead set in the middle. And I'm hoping that today, listening to you and the people in the chat, you guys can sway me one way or another, whether this was a good or a bad hire, or am I right here in the middle? And I'm just going to wait and see what happens. So I don't know. You guys can try to convince me one way or the other today. But in NFL news, I have some major bad news for every man in America.
Hold on. I'm actually excited, Eric.
Yeah.
I'm excited that we are parting the waters here, because for a while now, you and I seem to have fairly similar ideas. For the most part, I think we agree on a lot of things. This content, this show has been getting better and better and better week by week over the last few weeks, because we've had great conversation on the Favre interception or the Favre sack, right? Straight. And then the next day we have the same exact kind of situation with Joe Burrow. So when we're arguing or we're having little debates
it's a
here,
discussion, not an argument.
we still love each other after the show. That's the difference here.
Yeah.
We can still get along.
Love me. You might not love me after what I'm about to tell you guys.
It's all good, man. That's what makes this fun is if you can actually have an adult conversation and disagree with somebody and still be like, cool, you want to go to breakfast tomorrow?
But what I'm about to tell you, every man in America is going to hate this. This one hits everybody, not just a few people. This one hits everybody. Every married man, every single guy that wants to take a lady out. It affects everyone.
What, are we still talking about football?
Yes. Are you ready for this?
All right, let's go.
The 2027 Super Bowl lands on Valentine's Day. We're all cooked. We're all in trouble. Every one of us.
No.
What can we do? You can't take your lady out for a nice meal and a dinner while the Super Bowl's going on. It's impossible. You're going to have to put it off for another day, and you are done. You're dead. Every guy is in trouble right now because I just told them what's going to happen on Valentine's Day next year.
All right, so hold on though. Hold on. Here I'm a mind spinning, right? And I'm thinking, how can you get out of this? So
We got a lot of time to prepare.
So how can you get out of this? Super Bowl Sunday is going to be on what then? Is it February 14th or 15th, whatever it is, 14th? So what you need to do as a man, husband, boyfriend, whatever, is on Friday, you need to book yourself a little one-nighter or two-nighter somewhere, Friday night and Saturday night, and you will totally be off the hook on Sunday. Sunday, you deliver those flowers in a nice card and says, honey, I love you. I'm out. We'll see you Monday. We just did our thing for 2 nights, and you better go overboard if you're a big football guy, because this is one that you're not coming back from.
Yeah, good luck.
So that's the best plan that I'll be able to come up with.
So that was my little tidbit for today.
Yeah. Jesus.
We're all cooked.
I love it. Mathic says, I'll just break up with her for a week. Well, if you're married, that's a little tough.
Yeah, that's kind of tough. Yeah,
that's kind of tough.
Some papers.
You gotta get your hall pass. You know, I just need a hall pass for a week. What? You want to sleep with another lady? No, I want to watch football. I need a hall pass to watch football.
Yeah. I'm going to bring that up with the wife today.
Go up and tell her, say, honey, I've been thinking about this hall pass thing. You should just start watching the movie. And then say, God. I just need a hall pass for a week, and it just happens to be around Valentine's.
See, since 2019, I've always done this show called the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, and I'm gone for a month, and the last day of the show is always the 14th, so it's always that weekend, and so I always miss for like, I don't know, 6-7 years, I've missed every Valentine's Day with my wife because I'm out in Arizona. Well, this year I'm staying home, and she kind of likes that idea that I actually get to be home on Valentine's Day.
Maybe. So here's the other one, because I don't know if someone meant this in the chat, but it says, oh my God, she wants tickets and roses. Ain't love grand. So what happens if she wants Super Bowl tickets? What if the Lions are in the Super Bowl? Then what happens?
Yeah, because you're gonna have to leave on Friday. You're gonna have to be down there Friday.
Oh, we'll be out there the whole week. For media, we'll be out there the whole week.
Oh my God! And then you're gonna ignore the whole week?
No, they're gonna have to come. So this was our plan from the beginning. That when the Lions go to the Super Bowl, our plan was, all right, we'll try to get tickets. Like Lions season ticket holders will get an allotment. It's not many, but if you get lucky enough to get tickets, you pay a really reduced price, like $1,500, usually $1,800, $2,000. It's 1/5 of the cheap seats. So if we're able to get tickets, great, everyone goes. Otherwise, everyone goes, and the ladies that aren't going into the game, typically, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, they're just going to hang out. They're probably going to go shopping, whatever, watch the game somewhere else, or do whatever, but they'll at least be part of the entire event the entire time, minus the 4 hours we're in the game. That was our plan for this year. It was our plan for last year. So that'll be our plan going forward. So at least everyone's always included. It's kind of fun when your significant other, is enjoying football and having fun with football and wants to do it with you.
If I can afford a Super Bowl ticket, even if I can be out in the parking lot watching it on a TV and they can hear me from the inside, I don't care. If it's open stadium or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Down in Tampa or something, and if I can scream and at least be in the area and hear the crowd, that would be pretty awesome.
Do we know where it is in 27?
I don't know.
I don't know that comes out until after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think after the Super Bowl. No, they have it set up for the following 2 or 3 years. Let me look.
I don't remember. You don't have to waste your time on that, man. Let's get into NFL news.
All right.
I know you had some things this morning. You wanted to talk about some big time NFC North changes.
Yep.
And then we're going to get into Drew Petzing. But there's some big time coaching hires that are happening. Coach finally getting his resurgence at the position. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I think it's a great hire. And then the NFC North is getting gutted. And I loved what you told me this morning, like a taste of your own medicine. Let's stick it to them right now. What's going on in Chicago?
All right. Well, Chicago is losing someone that Ben Johnson loves a lot. So ex-head coach or ex-Lions coach Benedict Johnson is getting a taste of his own medicine. Eric Bieniemy is going to the Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are signing Bears running backs coach Eric Bieniemy for their offensive coordinator vacancy, which would mark a significant loss for Chicago's offensive staff. And this is just a little bit of poetic justice for Lions fans. And the potential exit is revenge, or maybe a little taste of his own medicine for the Bears head coach, Ben Johnson. Johnson famously poached several Lions assistants, including Antoine Randall L. and JT Barrett, when he left Detroit to take the Chicago job last winter. And this is a little bit of brain drain for good old Ben Johnson. Bieniemy's departure could signal the start of a larger exodus for the NFC North champions. Other Bears assistants, such as defensive backs coach Al Harris and passing game coordinator Press Taylor, are also drawing interest for coordinator roles elsewhere. And this could disrupt the rhythm of the Bears. So losing Bieniemy disrupts the continuity of the Bears offense that helped develop Caleb Williams. Lions fans can find humor in seeing Johnson forced to scramble for replacements, especially this late in the hiring cycle, a challenge that plagued Dan Campbell in Detroit following the exit of Johnson and former DC Aaron Glenn, who also took staff with him to the New York Jets. And this could have an impact on 2026. While the Bears are coming off a division title, the loss of experienced voices like Bieniemy could threaten their momentum, potentially making Chicago's dream season a blip on the radar rather than a dynasty. So,
I'm not surprised in Eric Bieniemy, going back to the Chiefs. I can't remember. He was the OC during, what was it, the 20, like early, right?
Yeah, he was at one time. Yeah, he was the OC for the Chiefs. He had a couple different roles with the Chiefs, if I remember right.
Yeah, because he was up for like head coaching opportunities in that. So if I remember now, he was running backs coach like for a long time there, for like 4 or 5 seasons. Maybe that was like the mid 2010s. I'm sorry, mid 2010s, like 13, 14, 15, somewhere in that range. And then he was the OC for like 4 seasons, and they won, I think, 2 Super Bowls while he was the OC. And then he went to Washington, and then he had like a brief stint at UCLA. Yeah. And then he came back. He came back with the Chicago Bears here this last season. So now, going back to Kansas City as the offensive coordinator, I mean, this is something that he knows the team, he knows the quarterback. I mean, he knows everything. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes coming back from significant injury is gonna be a tough year for him. But I think it's a good move, and I'm wondering what it also represents for Andy Reid, and how long is Andy Reid gonna go? Is he gonna see this through with Patrick Mahomes' contract, or is he starting to wind down? And is he just gonna try to win a couple of more and then he's out, or if the rails, if the wheels completely fall off this year like they did last year, what point is Andy Reid gonna hang it up? I don't see him ever coaching for another team.
Yeah, and that might be one of the carrots that they dangled for Bieniemy.
Yeah,
hey, we have a succession plan, and if Andy decides to hang it up, or if we have a bad season, Andy's gonna walk off into the sunset, and you are up next. We're not going to have any interviews, no nothing. We just hire you.
Well, they still got to interview, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
You're the next one in line, because, going with today's subject with Mike McDaniels, that was one of the things that Tampa Bay is kind of dangling that carrot in front of Mike McDaniels, is that, hey, you're the successor when our coach steps down or is done, because he's just not getting it done. So that's one carrot that Tampa was able to kind of dangle in front of them.
Interesting.
So I have a feeling that's the same thing here. And then I looked up the next 2 Super Bowls are announced. 2027 is SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. And then 2028 is Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia.
Man, I would love Jared Goff to be able to get into the Super Bowl next year, going back to LA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Going back to where it all started and he gets to win one for the Gipper. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's the NFL script is going back to Cali, going back to Cali. Jared Goff's going to win a ring. It's coming. I love it. I love the narrative. NFL, do it. Make it happen. What's next, man? So we've got potential poaching here, or not? Well, I guess it is. If Bieniemy's leaving to Kansas City, that's great. That means Ben Johnson's going to have to start all over again. Ben Johnson's the play caller, though, so Bieniemy more
run game.
Bieniemy's a big part of that run game, which obviously is huge.
Yeah, because they ended up having just an amazing run game this year, and losing him is going to be huge for them.
Hold on one sec.
Okay.
All right, that was weird. Anyway.
All right, and up next, the Green Bay Packers. Not only did they lose Eric John Sullivan from their front office, now the Dolphins are hiring Jeff Hafley, the Packers defensive coordinator, and their pain is the Lions' gain. All right. The Miami Dolphins have officially hired Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley as their new head coach, replacing the fired Mike McDaniels. And this is a pain for the Packers. The move is a significant blow to the Green Bay Packers. Hafley was credited with turning around the Packers defense in 2024 and 2025. His departure strips the team of its most reliable coordinator, just as head coach Matt LaFleur gets re-signed. All right. The Lions gain. The instability in Green Bay is viewed as a major victory for the Detroit Lions, with the Packers facing a defensive reset and internal chaos. The Lions' path to winning the NFC North becomes significantly less obstructed. So with Jeff Hafley leaving, they've also talked that he may be taking some of this coaching staff with him, some of the lesser not coordinators, but the other position coaches with him down to Miami. He might need himself a defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach and all the things that he's going to need down there. So just like Aaron Glenn when he left, just like Ben Johnson when he left, they are going to take guys with them that they know were on their staffs with their team. And that's going to be a drain on the Green Bay Packers. And it being so late in this hiring cycle, do you think that puts the Green Bay Packers a little bit behind the 8 ball versus a lot of these other teams that are already having all of their interviews with their new defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators, kind of like the Detroit Lions? They just hired their new OC yesterday. Do you think this puts the Green Bay Packers a little bit behind the 8 ball on this?
I don't. See, I don't think that we're late into the hiring cycle right now. This is so for the Lions, organization, every year we've been, 23, we were late into the cycle because we went to the NFC Championship. Last year, we had to wait until after the divisional round. But as we, learned yesterday and I explained yesterday, well, after the divisional round is done, that is when you can actually have in person. So up until yesterday, you could only have Zoom calls, Zoom interviews, and things of that nature. So yesterday, the in-person started. So I don't think that we're late at all. And that was going to be one of the things that I was going to kind of hit you back with is, you were saying the Lions are kind of waiting maybe a little too long to interview or not waiting for Petzing. I think we're right. Teams are right in the middle of it. So for teams like the Bears that just lost, they can now go right into in-person. They can skip the whole Zoom call interview. So I think with as many coordinators as there are available, and there's 15 now, 15 or 14 positions that are still open. You still have at least 7 head coaching positions that I think that are still open. They're right in the thick of it, man. So actually, to counter what we were talking about the other day, there's now 10 open positions. or were this year for head coaching,
yeah,
right?
There's 10.
That is now a new record for the NFL.
Yeah.
We've never had more than 9. We tied it. Now there's 10 with the Bills' open position.
I was actually wrong about that. In 2022, there was 10. So this ties.
So this ties it now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, that's a third of the league, man.
A third.
A third. And so to think that next year, you know, when you look at, and I'll get to this with Mike McDaniel too, but when you look at what's going on right now and why teams are trying to hire guys, or, you know, maybe why certain coaches, former head coaches, are not taking offensive coordinator positions. Hello, there's 10 freaking head coaching positions that were open this year. The next year, it's going to be slim to none. Slim to none as far as head coaching positions. LaFleur's going to sign, from what we understand, an extension.
He hasn't, though.
Yeah, so he'll be at least with the Packers for this next year. Dan Campbell is tied up through 2029 unless something happens next year. So I don't see any positions opening up in the NFC North. And honestly, I haven't broken it down by division and conference, like which divisions, you know, are pretty much locked up, which ones are next. I mean, we can go over that tomorrow. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is there's a lot of positions open. It would be stupid for somebody that wants a head coaching position to sign on as an OC right now. It'd be absolutely stupid. But I'll get to that. What's next? So you've covered Ben Johnson losing Bieniemy, and now the Packers, right?
Yep.
The Packers are losing who?
Jeff Hafley,
and he's going to Miami, right?
Yes.
That's a good hire, man.
Yep.
That's a good hire. It'd be interesting to see how he actually performs.
Well, he was a head coach at Boston College, so
yeah, college NFL is totally different, though.
Yeah, but he's got head coaching experience as well. A little bit.
Yeah,
you know, being the head guy, that takes a little bit different of a mentality than being just a coordinator.
You know, there's a couple of guys that have come out of Boston College. A couple of coaches in the league right now that have come out of Boston College. We'll marry that up here in a moment too. But
yeah, I know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then finally, we have the Minnesota Vikings. So Brian Flores, he is one of the most coveted defensive coordinators in the league right now. Well, he's got a callback interview for his dream job right now. He is the first person getting a second interview with the Steelers, and he is the front runner for that job. And then he has also had a bunch of calls for him to be the defensive coordinator because he's a free agent. He is not signed. He is not under contract for the Minnesota Vikings right now. So he can go anywhere he wants to go if and when he does not get the head coaching job with the Steelers. And one of the jobs got filled last night, and that is the Titans hired Robert Saleh, and he was also in the running for that job.
That's the guy that I was saying, man, that earlier this morning off air, he's had, you know, a little resurgence here, kind of bouncing around the league a little bit after the 49ers, going back to the 49ers, and now he's getting his next opportunity as a head coach in Tennessee. And this is a very unique hire, and I think it's a good hire as well. You're bringing a defensive-minded coach to a team that really needs an offensive mind. We'll see what he brings in for offensive coordinator options. I've already heard that if Mike McDaniel does not get a head coaching option, he's going to Tennessee. And we're going to talk about that too. Yeah, that's just what I've already heard. I personally don't believe it, but we'll see it if and when it happens.
Yeah. Did you watch the national championship game last night?
I watched a little bit of it, man.
Did you see that the owner and Tom Brady were down on the sideline talking to the quarterback there from Indiana?
I did not, but Tom Brady needs to be careful.
I think that they're going to be drafting him number 1 overall. I think that's a foregone conclusion.
So,
but I did hear a rumor yesterday.
Hold on here. Let's talk about that for a second, because there is clear lines that are being blurred there. Yeah. You can't have communication with potential draft picks prospects. One, they have to enter the draft officially. Two, there's certain times when you can actually have a conversation with them. And as an owner, he needs to be careful. So I would be asking the NFL right now, what rules did he already break?
Yeah. Now, I don't know if they were talking, but he was on the sideline.
I didn't see
watching.
So
watching. They even showed him. They're like, hey, it's the owner of the Raiders. You know who they're picking number 1.
yeah, that'd be interesting if that does
It
happen.
was a pretty good game, too. It wasn't a blowout, but you knew Indiana was going to win that game the whole time. And the one wide receiver for Miami, he's going to be a very good wide receiver in the NFL.
There are a couple of players in Miami that I have mocked to the Lions already, which I'll go over this week. One is a little bit later round pick that I think everyone in this room will love, and one's an earlier round pick that I'm not as excited about. You know, we'll see where it goes. I'm not going to give it away. I'll talk about that another day.
The one player I really loved from last night's game and last week's game is center Pat Coogan, and he's predicted to be the 5th center. So he's like a 3rd, 4th round draft pick.
Yeah, that would be getting into 4 or 5.
I could really see us picking up someone like him.
I don't know that a 4th round, 5th round center is the answer, but I will say this: you can never judge a book by a cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's oftentimes players get selected in the 4th round that become absolute studs, man. And
he could also move up the draft board quite a bit with the combine.
Absolutely. And that's why the combine is so important for people like me, that it is not getting direct access to, what's going on in the NFL, as far as we don't get all the background reports and checks, and I don't have the manpower to make hundreds of phone calls to all of the different schools and talk to, all of the coaches. I just don't have time for that. So that's why it's crazy that I've been as successful or accurate as I have been with the draft, not being able to get that information. So I would almost push against too much information. And I've kind of always been that way. Especially in sales, you get, paralysis by analysis. Some people say it the other way. You get analysis paralysis. But sometimes you can get paralyzed by having too much information. And when you have too much information, it starts to blur everything, and you might make a wrong pick because you're numb at that point. You don't even know what you know. Things are starting to blend from player to player, and it's like, shit, who am I going to take now? I have less information. I can see clear. And I think it works for me. It may not work for the NFL, but I think sometimes you have to separate all that. Like maybe you need to have, I'm sure the NFL does this, but their scouts have certain information that they look at, and they need to, funnel that down into a confined space of information that they're handing off to the GM and the coaches to look at. They analyze it, go through, make their own points. But there's 3 things that really matter for me, man. That is, are you a troublemaker? What does your stats look like? And the film. Like, that's it. That's all I really care about. Beyond that, it's measurements. Measurements are really important. So really, it's 4th thing. Measurements really, really have a big factor for me. Anyway, what's next for your list today before we get into the top 50 and then Drew Petzing?
Oops, sorry about that. I think that's it. Other than, because all my stuff is to do with Petzing, and then we have our top 50 free agents that we can still go through.
All right, let's take a quick 30-second break. We're going to come back. We're going to get Petzing out of the way. I know that's what everyone wants to talk about here this morning. And then I want to get into the chat and see what you guys are talking about. So let's switch our focus here to Drew Petzing. Let's focus on that. We'll be right back here in 30 seconds or so. Drew Petzing's on deck next.
If Mike McDaniel is an offensive coordinator next year, This might be the worst move in the Detroit Lions franchise history.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
That might be the dumbest take I've ever seen. Wow. And I'm not going to tell you what I'm talking about. All right, we're back. It's the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Up next, we're going to be talking about Drew Petzing. The Lions just made the big splash hire yesterday. Or was it just a hire? Or was it just a splash? Or was it neither? I know a lot of you are not excited about this. And I played the first clip of something that aired yesterday. And I have to say that some of the crap that I hear out of people that think they're media, it's just the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And it's you didn't get your guy, so you're upset. You're upset because you didn't get your guy. Let me replay this, and then I'm going to give you my take, and then I'm going to tell you what Drew Petzing is going to be in Detroit, at least by my definition of what I see him being and why this hire was made. And then I promised that the article was going to drop yesterday, but I kept doing more research, and so I've got 4 articles worth of stuff now, and I'm going to drop it all today. So that way it's all in succession, one after another. You can go through why, I like or dislike the hire, and then what he's about, what he's bringing, and then I'm even defining what it is that he's doing as far as his scheme and why it marries up with our offensive line that we have currently today. Let's take a listen to this take from yesterday. You guys can figure it out for yourselves who it is.
If Mike McDaniel is an offensive coordinator next year, this might be the worst move in the Detroit Lions franchise history. Like, worse.
You sound insane. Do you realize
than
that?
Matt Patricia. Like, if Mike McDaniel isn't a head coach, I don't know what the fuck we're doing. And listen, we have friends who work covering Arizona, covering the Arizona Cardinals, and they hate this guy. The whole team has hated that guy. The whole fan base did, and obviously that's not the best representation because there are good things that Drew Petzing has done. If you're new here, if you're living under a rock, the Lions hired an offensive coordinator, and his name's Drew Petzing. He's the former offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals, where last year their offense was dog shit. Now there was a lot of injuries, quarterbacks, running backs, different things like that. The things that he has done well for the Cardinals is he made Trey McBride look really good. He had Michael Carter break out, go for 1,000 yards last year. That's pretty cool. He runs a lot of 13 personnel. Since taking over in Arizona, they were number 1 in the usage of 13 personnel, so expect a first-round tight end. Yeah, not happy. Not great, Bob. I'm not going to sit here and act like, but also you can't truly overreact. But this feels like Dan Campbell not breaking his comfort zone. This feels like Dan Campbell doing one of those where, I'm going to bring in my guy, like he did with Anthony Lynn and like he did with Johnny Morton. Because Drew Petzing, Ben Johnson was the best man in his wedding. He stood up at Ben Johnson's wedding. Up out of here. He was with Hank Fraley together in Minnesota, so they're familiar there. This feels like the safe, comfortable, we know this guy, so we're going to hire him pick.
What the is going on with my life?
This has got to be the worst shit I've ever experienced. Like, number one, calm down. Calm down on this, but this is actually a great take.
You fucking crazy, man. You sound insane. Do you realize that?
Too much of the ad-libbing going on in here with all the sound effects. Like, just spit it out. And like actors these days doing media, it just doesn't fit. Like, it's a total fucking act. Excuse my F-bomb, but I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of the negativity. If you're gonna be in media, at least have something to say that is intelligent. Straight up. Just say something intelligent. What I heard out of this was it's the glory pick of it's someone that I know and it's a safe pick. He uses 13 personnel, expect a first-round tight end. The offense was dog shit. Why? Like, what did they do? Schematically, break it down. Tell us, what did they do? What didn't they do? Not going to play the rest of it, but did you even mention the fact that half their team was on IR? Did you mention that? Did you mention they didn't have their number one wide receiver and they had very few wide receivers at that? That's why Michael Carter had a breakout season? There's reasons and levels to this game. And I have to say that if you don't know what you're talking about, it's evident because no research was done at all. This is just a reaction of what people are saying online and some of the things that people have said online about the hire. I didn't hear one thing that was evident of any research or anything, honestly, even smart to say. And I'm not just saying like this just about this dude. It's everywhere. But this summed it up for me. This pops across my timeline this morning. And I'm like, unreal. Like, give us some intelligence here. That's all. And you know what? Here's some intelligence for you. Yesterday, let me make sure this is muted. We got some good comments after the live stream, and we had some really good Arizona, fans that one called in, and then a few of them in the chat or in the comment section made some really good comments. I'm going to read you this one. Okay. This is by Sand Viper 9322. Here's what he says. He says, okay, Cardinals fan here, and I feel there's some misinformed thoughts on Petzing. I will lead you with this. Yes, the entire fan base has wanted Petzing fired since week 9 of the 24 season. I also don't hate or love this hiring for the Lions. Drew Petzing loves 12 and 13 personnel, which he called a staggering 28% of the time until our tight end started getting injured. He runs a 60-40 run-to-pass game, with ideal plays being off-guard runs with a 1-2 punch running back duo. You should love that for David Montgomery. And he uses mesh concepts that utilize 2 and 3 tight ends. His downfall has been a lack of creative game planning, making it easy for opposing defensive coordinators to prepare for this offense. This offense, over the past few seasons, has been bottom 10 in points scored, with this season falling into bottom 5. Yes, you guys can point out from your perspective, lack of talent, Kyler is short, the O-line wasn't good, injuries. You would not be entirely wrong. However, this offense is designed for 3,000 yards passing and 24 TDs and 1.6K yards rushing with 20 TDs. I don't know what he means by that. I don't know why those numbers are even relevant. Jared Goff consistently puts up 4,500 or more yards. Pros for the Lions. Solid O-line with great O-line coach. Something that Arizona doesn't have. Goff is Petzing's ideal quarterback. However, Petzing cannot develop a quarterback and is truly dependent on the quarterback fitting the scheme. Goff does. I'll explain why here in a few moments. Petzing will not change his scheme for any player or any coaches. Whether he knows that or not, or is guessing, or that's just what he's assuming, that's a good thing. That means that whatever he's bringing to Detroit must fit exactly what we need. Otherwise, why would Dan bring it in? People are acting like Dan Campbell is just some idiot. Like he hasn't been absolutely brilliant for 5 seasons already. Yeah, every coach has their ebbs and flows to making bad decisions. I would tend to think that Dan Campbell's probably on the 85-15 rule right now. 85% of everything that he does, spot on. 15%, not so great. But compare it to the rest of the league and all those coaches, I'd say he's doing better, if not one of the top 5 coaches in the league at making good decisions. Next thing he mentions, very brilliant on blocking schemes. I don't know what about you, Eric, but could we block where the shit last year? No, couldn't.
Not at all.
And he develops a thumping run game. Something that we lacked this last season, even though we had some great yardage and some good stats for these guys, doesn't mean that we were dominant. We need to be dominant. There's a difference between having stats and dominating. In 2024, the Lions were dominant. We could go in and know that we need 4 yards. Got it. No problem. Last year, we needed 4 yards. I don't even know if we're going to get one. That's a big problem. And that started up front. Our offensive line was horrendous. Cons, lack of creative play calling. Plenty, though, of 3rd and 10 plus where he called a running back draw. It happened 2 or 3 times a game. Same shit that Ben did. Same exact stuff. Same stuff Dan's done. How many times have you seen us run, a 3rd and 10 plus where he's calling a running back draw? Here's the reason why. I'm going to try to explain it. I need to reach out to all 22 and see what he thinks. I'm going to try to explain it very simply. When you are a 4-down team and you are north of the 50-yard line and you need 12 yards, you are simply trying to get above 3rd and manageable, which would then be 4th and manageable. You want to be with, 4th and 4 to go or less. So if you're calling a third and 10 plus draw, your goal is to get within 4 yards on 4th down. You're still out of field goal range, but you're going for it. You're not punting it, so it doesn't matter. Your goal is to get north, get as many yards as you can, and then 4th down, you dial up your play that's going to get you home. 3rd down has become irrelevant in the NFL now. If we haven't realized that over the last 3 years, you better start realizing it now. Dan Campbell doesn't give a rip about 3rd down, other than he wants it to be 3rd and manageable. So 2nd down matters more than 3rd down. And 4th down, you just expect it. Terrible 4th down play calling. I'll get back to why I don't care about that. Players must fit his scheme. We have that. Lack of quarterback OC relationship. I don't know that anyone would really know that. His offense cannot sustain more than 2 1K yard receivers. Okay. Tell me how many offenses have more than 2,000-yard receivers. Does any team pop into your head?
The Lions almost did when our tight end was healthy.
Well, we've had Amon Ra for 1,000, Sam Laporta for 1,000. JMO hit 1,000, but he didn't do it when Sam did. We've always had 2,000 in receiving and 2,000 on the ground, or AP yards on the ground, right? Plus receiving.
On the ground.
Yeah. So it's tell me a team that has 3 1,000 receivers. Somebody tell me a team.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know one.
So I don't get that. And again,
the Lions were the only team this year to have 2 1,000-yard receivers.
There you go. If that's factual, then there you go. Feels pressure from the fan base, and I say that because I don't know. I haven't looked. Feels pressure from the fan base to force a player to get the ball. How do you know that? I don't know that you would know that. I mean, it's not like these guys can even hear you. Have you ever been on a field? I never heard the fans. All you hear is noise. I don't hear one person yelling at me, give him the ball. Do this, do that. When you're on the sideline and you're a player and you're not ingrained into the game, it's a little different. If you're walking around, you can hear more things. But if you're a coach that is earmuffs on, you got headphones on, headset on, and you're focused on the field, you can't hear anything behind you. So unless this guy's reading social media and thinking, I need to get the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs, that could be said for anybody. So none of this stuff really matters so far to me. The cons don't really outweigh the pros. So he says that's a short list. This is a boom or bust hire. Petzing can succeed. However, Dan Campbell will have to be down his throat. Like I said, I've been waiting 18 months for him to be fired, but I think he has the ability to work somewhere with a strong head coach, that's Dan, and an established offense, that's the Lions. Now, here's hoping for you guys. Being a fan of a perennial bottom dweller, I hope nothing more than your guys' success, because it means there's hope for the Cardinals. I thought it was a great statement, and the fact that it comes from an Arizona fan, I'll give it some relevance. Anything you want to enlighten us with out of all that?
With this hire, what I've noticed from the jump, from the very first second that it was announced that people are more worried about jumping on the what the hell than anything else. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, who? I didn't jump on and start making fun of the way the guy looks or calling him Megamind or the dude from Austin Powers or all this other stuff. You know, people just wanted to get on and just make fun of the guy, and they don't even know who he is. They don't know what he is. They don't know anything about him. They just know a picture that they see online of him, and that's it. People don't know who this guy is. We haven't even heard him talk yet.
We did yesterday.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, well, maybe you did, but I think you might have been off, but I played, so I went and played a John Morton clip, and then I played a Petzing clip, and you could hear a huge difference.
He hasn't talked yet to Lions media.
You mean his welcome to the Lions press conference? No, I don't know when that's scheduled.
I haven't even heard the guy talk yet to the Detroit media to see how he's going to handle himself here. I don't know. I wasn't, and none of us were sitting in these meetings, in these interviews, interviewing this guy. None of us are in the room discussing, man, this guy could be a great fit with Jared Goff. Oh, this guy's going to be oil and water with Sam Laporta. We don't know. And everybody wants to judge it right away. Oh, he was with the Cardinals, so he's going to suck. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I have not been torn one way or the other. I'm right dead set in the middle right now.
Well, let's see if I can fix that or make it worse.
I don't know whether I'm going to love this guy. I don't know whether I'm going to hate this guy.
All right, well, here we go. Let me I'm going to read you guys some of my article. I might read all of it, I don't know. But I'm definitely going to read some things that I've prepared, and then if you subscribe to the DetroitFootballJournal.com today, just put your email in. You will get paywall free content. A lot of the draft work will be in there. And a lot of the draft content's also going to be members only. I've heard, like people say, well, put out all of your picks and stuff like that early. There's a reason why you don't do that. There's a reason why you have several mock drafts, and that's because I don't need anybody taking my stuff. So when I put it out at the very end, and then I have a witness next to me during the live draft calls, Eric will tell you, how many did I get right? 26 out of 32. Did I do it live? Yes. Was there anything in front of me? No. Was I listening to anything? Did I have the answers before the test? No. All live.
No. When
Matter of fact, we didn't have anything because we were shit out of luck.
Yeah, like at the draft, I'm going to tell you, the media room is so different than you would think it would be. You would think that it's massive. There's 100 tables with 100 different podcasters and media people and the Lions people and the Chiefs people, and all the teams have people in this room. It's a giant auditorium, thousands of tables, thousands of people in there, right?
Yeah.
And they're all talking all at the same time. You cannot hear anything. They have the draft, like the live TV broadcast, up on some screens, but it's really hard to pay attention to. And it's
usually behind, and it's way behind what's actually happening.
It's way behind, like what's actually happening. You can hear the crowd cheer, and then like 90 seconds later, you hear the crowd cheer on the TV. That's how far behind it was. And listen, there's no like advanced notice of anything. So
yeah, I think that's the misconception. Like, even though we're in the draft, we're at the draft is outside in the theater. We are inside in basically like a big giant auditorium with walls. And then when the individual that was drafted in the first round, they come through media row and all that, and they go into the walled off area where you can go do their first press conference and interviews. I didn't do any of that. I went and watched a couple, but I didn't partake. I was kind of learning my way to figure out what we're going to do this year.
Yeah, this year I'll be off doing that while you're.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You're on the live.
We're going to be loaded up hopefully this year with better content.
We know what to do this year. We kind of figured it out. We were two little kids that were lost in an amusement park.
It was half fan, half media. It was like learn as you go, and then still try to enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah, but we were kids that lost an amusement park. We didn't know whether to go over.
Well, that's because the Packers suck, dude. Their planning was terrible.
I know. We didn't know whether to go throw darts at the balloon and try to win a giant teddy bear, or to go get in line for 2 hours for the big ride. We didn't know what to do. Just imagine being a 7-year-old at Cedar Park and not having a clue what to do first. That kind of was us. Well, now we know what to do. We know which line to get into. We know what prize to win. We're ready to go. It's just a different location this next year.
All right, big shout out here to Rather Be Fishing Fred. Says Petzing's offense seems to mesh well with our current team and what Dan wants in his offense. Lions offense has far better weapons. Trust in Brad and Dan. I'm right there with you, man. So let's get into it. I'm going to transition to a solo screen for just a minute, Eric, because what I'm about to say next.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll be right back. Okay, the search is over. Bringing in former Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing, the Detroit Lions didn't just find a warm body here to call plays. Matter of fact, the reason why I disagree with what a lot of people are already saying is we don't know if Dan Campbell's going to be calling plays. So it doesn't matter if this guy was an architect or a genius on third down. Nope, it doesn't matter. Does it matter that he called 60-40? Nope, doesn't matter. If Dan Campbell's the one calling plays, then this guy is game planning. He's up in the box, whatever he's doing, he's game planning, and he's feeding the information to Dan Campbell, and Dan Campbell is going to be the one that is calling the plays. We'll know come this summer if that's going to happen. We'll also know quicker when he does his press conference and he tells us what the plan is, or if Dan tells us what the plan is with Drew Petzing and calling plays, if that's this year or not. So I believe that the Lions found a schematic mirror image of Dan Campbell. Don't confuse this for a culture fit or a culture hire, as I've seen suggested online already on all the different social media platforms. That narrative is lazy. The move is purely tactical to me. I think it isn't about maintaining vibes in the locker room. This is about X's and O's. And that's it. You're matching Detroit's physical roster with one of the few coaches who genuinely shares the same DNA as Dan Campbell. I don't know how else to explain it better than that, other than pay attention to what the Lions are really trying to do here. Forget about all the big names. And the reason why is because this was a predictable reaction by Lions fans. Cue the outrage, the meltdown. You wanted the splash. You wanted the McDaniel magic show. Sorry to burst your bubble, people, but the real football doesn't work that way. That desire stems from the same Madden mentality that begs for flashy, senseless trade deadline moves. It's casual thinking, casual fans, casual understanding. The brutal truth? McDaniel was a flight risk, not a fixture. He doesn't come here to build. He was coming here to audit his resume, and that's a fact. Booking a layover before his next coaching gig is what I saw McDaniel doing. It was never a one-way trip to the D. I warned everyone from day one. Not happening. Maybe, just maybe, it's time you start subscribing to some real football talk and join the adults in the room. Links will be below in this article. Obviously, you know where to subscribe right now if you want real information. We don't get stuff wrong. This guy was not on my bingo card at all. But it doesn't mean the Lions got it wrong. And it doesn't mean that I missed something. All it means is they pulled a pivot and they found someone that they truly identify with from an X's and O standpoint. Now, the dismissal of John Morton, he clearly signaled a desire for change. We get that. I understand that. The arrival of Petzing, to me, signals a desire for evolution. We're going to walk back to 2023. I put out my first fully polished 2-minute intro where I talked about evolution. I play it every once in a while. And in 2023, you kept hearing Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes after the fact talk about the evolution of the team. We evolved big time in 2023. Now I feel like we have to evolve again. We ran stale in 2025. It's time to evolve back to where we were. And Dan Campbell wants to get back to what they were doing in training camp. That's why this hire makes sense. He wants to get back to what made this team stand out. Tight ends, run game, marry the play pass. And that's exactly what Petzing, who's a disciple of the Kevin Stefanski and Gary Kubiak coaching trees, is going to do. He's going to bring a system that prioritizes the very things that Detroit does well and honestly cherishes the most. Violent run game, heavy tight end usage, ruthless efficiency of play action. That's what I'm looking for when I listen to other media to explain why this isn't a good hire. They didn't even have enough brain to even say any of this. They can't even figure out why or why not the hire makes sense. They don't do any research. They don't spend any time trying to figure out who this guy is and why the Lions may have hired him. Now, it doesn't mean that this guy's going to work out. It doesn't mean that everything I'm about to say is right. All it means is this is who he is. This is what we expect to see. And quite honestly, they could pull the rug out from underneath us. They could come in and desire an entire new offense. It may not be anything that he's done before. We don't know what we don't know until we see it. And that's training camp. The schematic fit. This is where violence meets the West Coast structure. And this is where I'm going to bring Eric back in. Now you see why I took you out for a minute there, because I was going to get a little heated. And that clip I'll use later. So, primary reason for Petzing, in my opinion, and based on research. Remember yesterday I promised I was going to launch this. I didn't launch it because I wasn't comfortable with the amount of, information that I was pulling in, that I had it all put together the right way to explain it. Now, I could fumble it, put it out a few times, and finally get it right. That's not what I'm all about. To me, there's a schematic fit here, Eric, and this is where the violence of the run game meets that West Coast structure, assuming he's bringing what he's been doing to a team that can actually do it. The primary reason Petzing fits Detroit is because he speaks the language of gap football. Unlike the spread-heavy air raid coordinators of the college game, Petzing's base philosophy is built on the under-center run game, and specifically, he utilizes duo, power, and counter concepts. What is the heavy personnel identity? Well, in Arizona, he was famous for his usage of 12, running back, 2 tight ends, 13, 1 running back, 3 tight ends, personnel groupings. This aligns perfectly with the Lions roster that is invested heavily in the offensive line depth and tight ends. I'll pause there. Offensive line depth. How many times have I already brought it up this offseason for us that I don't see Miles Frazier and Christian Mahogany as immediate starters at any guard position. I don't see Giovanni Manu as the immediate replacement for Taylor Decker. I don't see Tate Ratledge as our center. I do see Tate Ratledge and Penei Sewell as our fixtures on the right side of the offensive line. However, everything to the left of them is up in the air. I don't see Graham Glasgow as the primary center coming back in 2026. And if that happens, we're going to have a problem. The Lions are going to go find a center, whether it's free agency or draft. I don't really know of anyone in free agency right now that makes a whole lot more sense than Linderbaum. But again, if you go back to what I said at the start of this article, that's kind of in line with the flashy, big time free agent signing. Does it make sense? It does, but does it make sense for Brad Holmes and what his consistent history has been? No, it wouldn't. I think that he would probably look to the draft to find the center before he would spend $25 million a year over 3 years and, eliminate $75 million of cap space that the Lions really don't have. Back to the depth of this offensive line. I do believe that there is a better left tackle in this draft that is available. And I do believe that there could be a potential all-pro or at least multiple Pro Bowl. Now, we don't care about the game. We don't care, about what it is today, but Pro Bowl just means that you're a damn good football player. I think there could be a better guard that they bring in. In this type of system for Petzing, you need to have both of your guards be extremely mobile. These guys have to have extremely athletic lower bodies. They have to be the ones that are getting out in space, that are pulling to go meet those corners and linebackers out in space on the outside of the offense to get the running back open. Does that sound like Miles Frazier? Does that sound like Christian Mahogany? To me, it doesn't. Now, Giovanni Manu, very athletic. The dude can actually run. Big body. There is a potential that he'll be utilized in some of these bigger jumbo sets. He could be swinging out wide. I could see that. But Penei Sewell is by far your most athletic. I see Penei Sewell primarily being one of the guys that pulls often. So you have to bring in a jumbo set to have somebody else on the outside of him. But with that said, the heavy usage, the personnel identity, 12 and 13 personnel, which is something we didn't use enough of last year. Does that excite you one way or the other?
Oh, sorry. I got a cramp. I have a couple of questions. So my biggest question is Petzing going to call plays? Or is Petzing going to be basically an offensive assistant for Dan Campbell, who is going to be calling plays? That's my biggest question. And then I think I answered my second question. I went and looked it up, and it looks like Petzing's always on the sideline. He doesn't coach from up in the box. So I think this guy is more comfortable coaching on the sideline than he is up in the box. Everything I've seen, he's always on the sideline.
Yeah, 100% he'll be on the sideline.
Yeah, and like I was saying while you're gone, my only question is, before I make any decision on this guy, is when he does his press conference, I hope that someone in Detroit media asks, are you calling plays or is Dan calling plays? That's
obviously that's a big part of this. And honestly, I'm not worried if he is calling plays. I'm just trying to make the argument here that if Dan is calling plays, then what everyone is saying about this guy doesn't matter. Because if he's the one that had issues calling, better third down plays or is consistently running a draw at a 3rd and long, well, maybe Dan Campbell won't do that. So I don't know that we are extremely excited about what Dan Campbell was calling either.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have Petzing calling the plays. I want it taken out of Dan Campbell's hands.
I think I do too. And, we got a good sample of what Dan Campbell is from week 9 through week 18. So you got 1, 2, 6, 7, 8. You got 10 games that Dan Campbell was the play caller. 10 games in a row. And sorry, I sneezed and now my nose.
Yeah, dude, it's so cold. My nose is just running today. But before you go on, I just want to mention something like in the chat, Antonio, like this is where we have to start separating what happened pre-2021. But mentioning that we have been making hires like this and have 0 Super Bowl rings to show for it. Meanwhile, our old franchise quarterback is headed to another Super Bowl. This just lets you know where this thinking is leading. No, that's wrong.
Wrong.
So the SOL fan base, like, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're SOL, but SOL fan base is the same old Lions making the same old mistakes. That's pre-2021. That was William Clay Ford. That's how SOL was created, because he was keeping players and coaches around too long and then doing the exact opposite, constantly switching coaches every 2 to 3 seasons, like 3.5 on average. You can't do that and expect to win. That's exactly why the Lions didn't win anything, because you were constantly changing your coaching staff. You can't have or develop cohesion by doing that. The Lions are now into their 6th season, right? 21, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be 6th season for Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Jared Goff, and the majority of the staff. You're building cohesion. If you look at the Rams and the Eagles both, which I've done this a couple of times, they didn't win their first Super Bowl together until like year 8. They lost plenty of playoff games. They didn't even go to the playoffs for like 3-4 seasons in a row. And then all of a sudden they pop up and win one. The Matthew Stafford take, like he goes to LA and wins. LA had a much better roster. Much better roster. They were more developed. And who helped build that roster?
That was the one player away.
Brad, no, but you never one player away. But the point is
but that was
Brad Holmes built that roster. So what makes you think that Brad Holmes isn't doing the same thing in Detroit, just better? Because we are far and away way ahead of where the Rams and the Eagles both were. And Brad has more playoff wins, and Dan Campbell has more overall wins than both GMs did during the same time period of when they started with those teams.
Yeah. And this is the first time in Lions history that we've had in our lifetime, in my lifetime anyway, that the Lions have had 4 winning seasons in a row. We just had a 9-8 season. We're a winning team. We did not lose more than we won. Everybody forgets this. I know it was a disappointment. I know it was not the season we all predicted. It was not the season that we all had in mind. But we had a winning season. And if we just make a couple of plays here and there, just a couple, kick a couple of field goals, whatever it was, this team wins 3 or 4 more games and wins the division. So I'm telling you, we are not that far off. Injuries were a big factor. Some coaching blunders were a factor. And hopefully they all tuned in to that Bears Rams game the other day and saw that maybe this going for every single 4th down maybe isn't the best idea ever. Now, I like going for it on 4th down, but not at the pace and in the position that a lot of these that Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson are both doing right now. So maybe Petzing will be that little, not the devil on his shoulder. He'll be the little angel on his shoulder saying, Dan, hey, Dan, maybe we should take the points here. What do you think? Dan, I'm really of the mind that we take the points here. This is a playoff game. We need every point we can get today.
Yeah, we've already discussed that. I'll leave that one alone.
So maybe Petzing will be the voice of reason for him.
Could be. The next thing for me, and I'll come back to the chat in just a moment, is the run game continuity. So the Lions do not want to become what is just a finesse passing team. I think that we tried to pass the ball too much last year, but in 2023, Petzing's Cardinals finished 2nd in the NFL in rushing average, 5.02 yards per carry, and 4th in total rushing yards. He achieved this with a roster that was far less talented than Detroit's. But I'm going to throw a little caveat in here. I've seen the complaints in the chat or the statements that, Petzing was atrocious at calling plays, and that's why you were losing games. You call the play, the players still have to execute. Did they execute the play? Unless you could tell me that they executed at a high level. They didn't botch a snap. They all ran the cleanest routes. They didn't miss a block. If they did all that and they executed at a high level and the play didn't work, blame the coach. Or you have to maybe look across the line and say, that's a pretty damn good defense over there. You're not going to win on every play. You're not going to win on every game. You're just not. But I will far and away take players not executing over coaches making the wrong call. We're all human. There's 6 other plays they could have ran that could have been better. And you know what hindsight does for you? Hindsight goes back and looks at the replay and says, but look, he was wide open. But look, he was wide open. But you don't know the progression of the call. You don't know if the quarterback's going left to right or right to left. Or center out and then back to the left. You have no idea. All you see is a player over there that's wide open that could be the decoy. We don't know what we don't know, right? And that's why listening to people that are more intelligent than me doing game tape breakdowns, will help you understand a little bit more of did the coach really make a mistake or did that player not execute? I think that Petzing understands how to protect a quarterback a lot better than what we have seen this last season. I think that you first have to bludgeon the defensive front. It's a philosophy that Dan Campbell demands, and it's a philosophy that Hank Fraley demands. You have to be strong up front. Play action candy, right? Petzing's system relies on marrying the run and the pass. Because he runs the ball so efficiently or effectively from under center, his play action shots are devastatingly effective. This mimics the specific Goff-friendly structure that Ben Johnson used to turn Jared Goff into a top-tier passer, right? That's what everyone talks about. You force the linebackers to step up to stop the run, and then you throw behind them because they quickly realize, oh, wait, this isn't a run. It's a pass. Sam Laporta is already behind you. That's what I watched all day yesterday. I went back and watched that 49ers game that someone mentioned yesterday, and I watched all of it. And I went through a couple of other games. I like what I see. The Cardinals didn't execute. They didn't execute a lot. The weaponry fit. Unlocking the core four, I think, is going to be big. So you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. That's your core four going into this next season. But we also have Isaac Tesla, who was underutilized. There's that honeymoon time with Jared and a new receiver. Same thing that took a little bit of time with JMO. Maybe Tesla was struggling a little bit with the playbook, wasn't utilized as much. That'll be better this year. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, assuming that he's back, it's the Connor effect, right? Petzing isn't afraid to feed a bell cow. And in Arizona, he turned James Conner into the engine of the offense, leaning on him for pin and pull sweeps and ghost gap scheme runs that allowed him to play arguably the best football of his career. Man, I can't tell you how many times I was screaming at the television this year or on Mondays here on the podcast. Man, just get Jahmyr Gibbs out in space. Get that dude outside. So hoping that for Jahmyr Gibbs, Petzing's diverse run menu is going to help that. Specifically, the perimeter toss and the counter plays that were designed for Connor, I can see those same plays used for Jahmyr Gibbs. It will get Gibbs into space against the linebackers who just become frozen by the threat of the inside run. Where that levels up is if you have a two-back system and you have both those guys on the field, and now you don't know which one's getting the ball. And with Montgomery standing next to Gibbs, those linebackers have to force themselves to close in. They have to focus on the middle because that's where Montgomery's going 8 out of 10 times. And then you also have to worry about Jahmyr Gibbs. Is he going outside? Well, he can also run inside. So they still clamp down. But then if you send Jahmyr Gibbs out to the slot, whether it's on motion or whether it's just post-snap, now you got linebackers in conflict. And you still have Sam Laporta. I've been saying this for a while now. I see that those types of usages of your personnel are what hopefully Petzing is going to realize and drill into Dan Campbell's head that this is what we have to do. It's sight unseen. We'll see if it happens. Unfortunately, the Cardinals didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have two guys that they could put back there. They didn't have a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs that could go and, for 150 yards through the air if he really wanted to. Connor's not that type of a back. How about Sam Laporta? He could be the focal point, will be a focal point, assuming he's healthy. I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again right now. Expect a tight end in this draft. If there is one winner in this hire, it's Sam Laporta. Petzing views the tight end not just as a safety valve, but as a primary offensive weapon. And I love it. When Sam Laporta is playing well, you can't deny this as a Lions fan. Eric, when Sam Laporta is playing well, do we win more often than not?
Oh, hell yeah.
2 of his biggest games last year were Lions wins.
Yes, and when he went out, that was kind of it. There was a couple of things that really kind of doomed this season for Detroit, and probably the biggest thing was Sam Laporta.
Yeah,
the injury to Sam Laporta, and then Brock Wright right behind it just zapped everything that this offense is made to do.
Yep.
Couldn't
agree more.
when the wide receivers are taken out of the game and you have the running backs just aren't getting it done, the one person that can always get it done was Sam Laporta. He's your outlet valve. He is your escape hatch. And there was no escape hatch after Sam Laporta went out and Brock Wright went out. And then I think another thing that really no one's talked about is Johnny Morton. I don't know if he was a fit with the players and the other coaches. Was he oil and water, wanted things his way and not anybody else's way? Did he want the plays called his way and not someone else's way? And then he gets demoted, and instead of firing him and getting him out of the building, they keep him around. So was that a downer for the rest of the year? Having this guy around, this lame duck coach around for the rest of the year, that was the downer and the reason that your offense just wasn't clicking right, even though they were winning games. I mean, they went 4-2 with Johnny Morton, and they did have a good little 4-game winning streak, but stuff just wasn't going right. And they made a move when they were 4-2 to take Johnny Morton away from play calling. So that means something was up. And, you know, my question is this: was that maybe a mistake not letting him go and keeping him around the rest of the year, even though he was helping with the game plan every week?
I agree. I heard most of what you're saying there about John Morton possibly being a virus, you know, around the players because he was let go, he was demoted, and possibly, yeah. I mean, you heard me week after week. I kept saying something's not right. Something's not right. Something's different. Something's going on in the locker room. Did we bring in a player that's upset the apple cart? What the hell's going on? And I said it all year. And once Mo was demoted, it started to make sense. And if you heard St. Brown, I totally forgot to cover this the other day, but if you heard St. Brown in his podcast when I think he was asked by his brother, a statement by his brother, who said, "Man, I hope you guys, or I'm expecting you guys to make some big moves here this year in free agency." And St. Brown's like, "And so do I," or something like that, or "I effing do too." Like, he wants some players. And I hope that you know is heard, but at the same time, St. Brown, are you going to restructure your contract? If not, shut the hell up. You know, a couple of things in the chat. I'll move on to the next segment here, or in the next section in just a moment. Dude, I've got so much in this article, it's not even funny.
Yeah, and I got one thing. So we don't have all the answers to all the questions that we have as fans right now.
No.
At least I don't.
Nope.
And you have to think that Petzing is like a race car driver, right? And he's doing NASCAR, right? He's been in NASCAR for 3 years. Well, he's driving a 1970 Pinto, and all of a sudden he gets a NASCAR car in Detroit.
Yep.
You know, he's going to a Ferrari, and okay, so he's going to a Formula One car, and everybody else has NASCARs now.
Now he's driving a funny car, little midget funny car, and now he's graduated to a pacer.
He's graduating from junk to something that's really freaking awesome and proven. Whether he calls plays or not, we don't have that answer yet. And I don't know the first thing about this. The guy himself, I have not heard him talk to the Detroit media. No one has. So all these people that are jumping on and giving their opinion on this guy already, how much do you really know about this guy? Do you know if he's going to call plays?
Well, that's what we don't know. So that's why this research is so critical to understand everything that he's been doing and how it marries up to the Lions. That's where I went with my research, is how does this marry to the Lions? Leave the play calling, whatever. We don't know. The other thing that I'll say is, I keep seeing in the chat, same old is, he's leading a bottom feeder in Arizona. Here's my question. Did that GM invest in the offensive line properly? Did that GM invest in the offense properly through the draft? Did they do anything? Because I don't see it. When I look at that roster, I don't see it. They hung on to Kyler Murray. That was their worst mistake. Giving him a contract was stupid. They should have gotten rid of him years ago. So it starts with the quarterback. And now watch. They're wiping the house, or they're getting rid of everybody. They're wiping the slate clean. Watch how they react now if they get the right quarterback. And it starts there. Quarterback, offensive line, and then you can start to build. They have a couple of good pieces on the offense already, but they need a better quarterback. They need a better offensive line. But you're totally right. You're now getting the keys to a Ferrari in Detroit, and the engine is warm already. All you got to do is get in and hit the gas. So I like that opportunity a lot more than Arizona that has two pieces on the offense and a quarterback that can't see over the offensive line.
Yeah.
That wishes he wanted, could play baseball instead of football.
I was thinking about something. Kyler Murray, you know who he reminds me of? A short version of Caleb Williams. That's exactly who he reminds me of.
Caleb's not the tallest guy either. That's why he has to run outside the tackles very often to throw the football deep. That's why he does it.
They both run around and make these, miracle throws and get the big highlight tapes.
But then you fizzle out. You fizzle out because luck only lasts so long.
Yeah, you can only do it once or twice a game. And I put, the Michael Jordan pose throw from the Packers game with Caleb Williams.
No, I haven't seen it.
Where he made this miracle throw against the Packers, and
when he was getting tackled and he was turning.
Yeah, he's jumping up in the air and he throws the ball across his body and it goes for a touchdown. Well, they made the Michael Jordan pose and people were getting it tattooed on them and all this stuff. And I made a.
What's funny about that, Eric?
Yeah.
During the game, this most recent game this weekend, you had the Bears fans saying, "Put him in the Hall of Fame. Look at this beautiful throw." And then at the end of the game, trade his ass. Get rid of him. He's washed up. He sucks. He's a bust.
3 interceptions.
Come on. Which one is it? Keep tattooing that stuff.
But then I found a meme of him cut out with his uniform on and everything in that pose, throwing the ball, but it's him hitting a volleyball over the net in Cancun. And I wrote, "I'm next."
Jesus. All right, so we talked about the focal point. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that is going to be like the Adam Thielen role, before calling plays. Petzing was a wide receivers coach in Minnesota. He helped oversee the dominance that Adam Thielen had and Stephon Diggs. And I think that he understands how to scheme up the free releases for these slot guys. It just so happens that he has the best slot receiver in the game right now to work with. So there's not a whole lot that needs to happen here other than they have to develop trust for each other. Jameson Williams, you have the vertical threat. The criticism of Petzing in Arizona was he occasionally had too much, he's too conservative. And I think it was largely due to Kyler Murray and his limitations in rhythm passing, where Jared Goff is totally different. He's on time. He's on rhythm. That's what he does. And Petzing can utilize the post, the deep post, the dagger concepts of play action that require precision timing with Williams' specialty and his speed. And he needs to gain some muscle this year. Proof of concept here is the tight end whisperer. I'll skip over some of this because we've talked a lot about it. You're just going to have to read DetroitFootballJournal.com today. Get the articles that'll be dropping after the show today. The Trey McBride explosion. If you're going to blame Petzing for all these failures, are you going to give him any credit for any of the good things that he's done? So under Petzing, Trey McBride went from a promising young player, not so great of a rookie year, right? I think his rookie year was his worst year, to a stat monster. In 2025, McBride, was it 2025 or 2024? I think it was 25. McBride went for 1,239 yards this year, 1,146 yards last year, 210 his rookie year, 825, which is a really good year for a tight end in 2023, and then explodes in 24 and 25. The fact that he has done that I'm not worried about the tight end usage where I'm screaming at the TV saying, hit Sam, go to Sam. I'm not going to have to worry about that now. Now I'm going to have to worry about stop going to Sam, get somebody else involved. He's going to have too many options. That's a good thing and it's a bad thing. But I'm not worried about us using what's open. As long as he can mix it up, it'll work. It takes time. It's not like this is going to be a well-oiled machine out of the gate. And if it is, all credit to Dan Campbell then, because that means Dan Campbell's got the guy on point. The translation for me with the Trey McBride explosion is Sam Laporta to be the centerpiece of the game plan, not just a red zone threat. But I want him to be the red zone threat. Then you have the David Njoku renaissance. Before Arizona, Petzing was the tight ends coach in Cleveland. I think it was 2020 to 21. And during that time, David Njoku developed into a complete tight end. In 21, the Browns were the only team in the NFL to have 3 different tight ends record at least 3 touchdowns each. Lions translation suggests that not only Sam Laporta will feast, but the Lions tight end too, possibly Brock Wright or a draft pick, will also be a significant factor in the red zone. I don't want to see Shane Zielstra on this roster, period. The verdict for me is Petzing is a high floor hire with a high ceiling schematic match. I think that he brings discipline of the Stefanski tree. I think that he's going to bring the run game violence of the Gannon Eagles influence. Love it. And I think that the proven history of maximizing the exact types of players that Detroit has built into its roster, he won't just ask the Lions to change who they are. I think he's simply going to give them a better blueprint to dominate at what we've already been doing. And we're going to go back to what we were doing. But now this next section, we'll take a brief 30-second break. I'm going to get into explaining now the nuts and bolts of the offense. This is what nobody else is talking about. They haven't given you this information yet. They will after they hear this today. Oh, yeah, we should probably tell him what the hell he's actually doing. What is he calling? Well, like you said, Eric, we don't know what we don't know. We really don't know what offense he's going to bring. What we do know is what he has been doing. So up next, we're going to talk about the fundamentals, the nuts and the bolts, the X's and the O's of Drew Petzing. We'll be right back.
You fucking crazy, man. You sound insane. Do you realize that?
Daniel is an offensive coordinator next year. This might be the worst move in the Detroit Lions franchise history.
All right, welcome into the Rise to Grind Morning Show. Good morning, everybody. We're talking about Drew Petzing right now. We just got through a whole segment of kind of what is Drew Petzing all about and how does it translate to some of the players on this roster currently, at least the ones we feel pretty confident that'll be back on this roster here in 2026. The sentiment that I'm gathering so far from fans, from the chat, from social media, is that they don't know who Drew Petzing is. And that's why the freakout mode has been enacted. Like I said, Q, right on Q, is this pathetic narrative that this is the worst hire ever in Detroit, and the outrage, right, that is right on point with Lions fans melting down and creators acting and putting on a show because they don't have anything intelligent to add. It's unfortunate. And I know that I'm one of the very few that will go against the grain, that will try to bury the negative narratives, that will try to put positivity into everything. But it's not just always being a homer or the positive guy or rainbows and sunshine. It's trying to have good football conversation, right? Intelligent football conversation. Let the adults enter the room for a moment. I don't know everything. I'm not right about everything. But what I will promise you, and always have promised you, is that I will do my very best to make sure that we give you the most accurate information possible through research. And I spent a lot of time last night researching. And now I'd like to know right now with a poll, even though we haven't even gotten into the nuts and bolts yet. This morning, you entered the chat hating, disliking the majority of the pick, right? The majority did not like the pick. So where are you now in the like or dislike phase of Drew Petzing?
And make a 50-50.
I will
in there.
So you obviously haven't changed.
No, not yet. See, I'm gonna withhold what I feel until I get to hear this guy talk, until I get to hear Dan Campbell talk about him, until I get to hear Brad Holmes talk about him, until I get to hear Jared Goff talk about him. Because has Jared Goff sat down in a meeting with this guy yet?
More than likely, yes. And we know that just based on what we have heard through communication with Jared Goff, when they discussed postseason, how the next offensive coordinator was going to fit in Detroit. And I remember vividly the conversations between Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, and Jared Goff that, yes, he will be involved to a degree. It's largely up to Dan, right? And Brad, mostly Dan. It's his and it's his staff. So, but of course, Jared Goff is going to be in the room at some point, to figure it out.
And then kind of my second question is he going to bring in his own scheme and change things up? Is he going to change all the verbiage, or is he going to blend what he does with what the Lions are already doing?
Well, number one, Eric, you should know this by now. Verbiage gets changed every year.
Well, yeah.
Okay, it has to. You can't evolve from year to year and have the same verbiage. Otherwise, defenses are going to know exactly what you're doing. So that's a given. Anytime you change an offensive coordinator, they're going to come in with their own scheme. They're also going to come in with their own language. They will work with the quarterback and your core 4 or 5 players to, hey, what's the best language for us? How do we work it out together? I guarantee that's going to happen. As far as him changing up everything in Detroit, from what we've heard from other fans, that he won't change anything for anyone. He won't change the scheme for the quarterback. Dan Campbell's not going to allow that. If you're coming into Detroit, you're going to have to do what the coach wants you to do. Yes, you're still your own person, but it has to work. It can't not work. So I think going through this, they've probably learned that, and this is kind of where I'm settling on this whole idea of Drew Petzing, is more than likely he's coming into Detroit with the understanding that it's going to be a collaboration. It has always been a collaboration. It was a collaboration with Ben. It was a collaboration with Johnny Moe. It's going to be a collaboration again. It has to be. You can't come in and fit a medium glove to an extra large hand and expect it to work. It's not. You're going to stretch it out to. It's not going to work. You're going to cut off the circulation to the hand. It's going to end up dying over time. So if you don't come in and collab and fit what you have on an offense of roster to the scheme, it'll be a disaster. And so far, I have not witnessed that in Detroit from them not fitting the roster to the scheme. Just Johnny Moe is the wrong damn choice. And, to your point earlier, Eric, when we're talking about waiting game and maybe, certain teams are getting into it too late. The Lions really shouldn't have been into it too late last year. I don't know why we didn't hear enough about interviews. I don't know why we didn't hear anything, honestly. Maybe there was not enough opportunity. Maybe there wasn't enough coaches really available. Maybe coaches were scared to come to Detroit that was running such a well-oiled machine and had the number one offense in the league, and they're like, I don't know. What is your thought?
Yeah. I just know that I got all excited when Johnny Moe came in because he had worked with Goff before. He helped put this offense together when Ben Johnson was here, and he had worked with the Lions before. He went to Denver. He had previously been an OC for the Jets. It didn't work out for the Jets. But I thought, hey, this is going to be awesome. This guy knows Goff. This guy knows the offense, and he knows what to do. And then he comes here, and you see oil and water. You see a guy up in the box, not on the sidelines, not down there, not communicating. And what did we have the very first game of the year? Communication problems.
Yeah.
So if we get into our first game of the year this year and we have communication problems, then I'm going to blow my top and I am going to go full on SOL and be madder than a hatter. I am just going to lose it if we go down the same road that we already went down. Let's learn from that lesson, move on, and keep going. And I really have to hold off making a real, quick judgment on this hire. I have to see what happens first. I have to see how OTAs go. What kind of an influence does this guy have on Brad and Dan in the draft? What kind of influence does he have over the summer? Go to training camp and see how things are going. Does this look any different? Is it going to be a bunch of trick plays? Is it going to be a bunch of, big explosion splash plays, the plays that we're looking for? Are those actually going to happen this year? Because that's all they talked about in the offseason. We're going to have all these explosive plays. We're going to get the ball to J-Mo more, and we're going to do this and do that. Well, none of it happened through the first 6 weeks. None of it.
Just response here to Nobody05 in the chat. What I was referring to about interviews was last year with Johnny Moe, not this year. We know all about the interviews this year. And then Peter Van Larhoven says Dan has failed on 67% of his OC choices. What makes you believe that he'll get this right this time? Well, here's the truth. Dan Campbell came in 2021 with a staff. How many people do you think really wanted to come to Detroit in 2021? Take a guess. In the chat, let me know. Do you think that it was difficult for Dan to put the staff together? He brought in a pretty damn good staff to start with. But do you think it was easy for him to pull in an extremely good coordinator on the offense, knowing that roster was going to be completely gutted? You're walking into a roster or a situation where everything was being gutted. Remember, this was not just a retooling. This wasn't a rebuild. It was a brand new team that they were putting together from the top down. Ownership, the frickin' concession stands. The frickin' meat and the hot dog was different. Everything, Peter. Mm-hmm. Everything changed. So you come in and you're trying to assemble a team, a roster, a coaching staff, and it's not easy when people know that you're coming to a turd nugget to start. And then in 2023, or second half of 22, this team started to look really good. That's when I think anybody was willing to come to Detroit. Dan was able to turn it around really quickly. And the fact that Anthony Lynn was the offensive coordinator for 6 weeks, Dan Campbell took it over then, and then Ben Johnson was the coordinator for what? 21, 22, 23, and 20, or 22, 23, 24? 3 years? And then Johnny Moe was the coordinator for 6 weeks this year. So the way I look at it is out of the 5 seasons, Dan Campbell failed in 12 weeks. Out of 5 seasons. That the offensive coordinator didn't work out. But what were we able to do this year? What was our record before Johnny Moe was let go? What were we? 3-2?
4-2.
4-2. So it's not like he was failing. It just wasn't working. There's a big difference there. Now in 21, complete failure because we expected a failure. 3-13-1. We didn't even win a game until what, week 10? Anthony Lynn was truly oil and water. He was not listening. He was not doing what he was asked to do. Wasn't working. But we also didn't have a roster. The way I evaluate Dan Campbell on his offensive coordinator choices is, so far we've had the best offense for 4 seasons, just about. We're a top 3 offense for damn near 4 seasons. I think he's winning the game. And if this doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But I don't know what else to tell you there. We have to see it work out first. Why are we putting the cart before the horse? We haven't even seen anything on the field yet. So I hope I answered that the best way I could. Here we go. Let's talk about the weaponry fit, Eric. Unlocking this core 4 for a minute. No, I'm sorry. Let's talk about what is the West Coast offense. A lot of people talk about the West Coast offense. It's a loose term that fans will use. Oh, they're just running the dink and dunk system. They're running the West Coast offense. Well, what is it? I'm going to explain it to you. Is the best way I can this morning. It's arguably the most influential philosophy in modern NFL history. Bill Walsh is the one that popularized this offense with the San Francisco 49ers in the 80s. It completely changed how football was played. Traditionally, football was run to set up the pass. The West Coast offense flipped it on its head. It was the core philosophy of pass to set up the run. Now, when we think about West Coast offense today, or we think about everything that I just said about Petzing, it's heavy run, tight end usage, and then set up the pass. True West Coast offense is pass to set up the run. The fundamental idea in the West Coast offense is to use the short passing game as an extension of the run game. So when you see us doing these little 2, 3, 4 yard darts, imagine that you're just running the football and you're getting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yards with the hope that a yak monster breaks one, right? That one play goes for some yardage. Instead of handing the ball off for 3 yard gains, you throw a quick 3 yard pass to the flat, or slant, whatever. The goal is to force the defense to defend the entire width of the field, sideline to the sideline, rather than just the box, right? By spreading the defense out horizontally, which is not indicative usually of what people think of when they think of the West Coast offense or the tighter condensed formations. You eventually will open up the running lanes in the middle of the offense later in the game. So it may look functionally dysfunctional the first 1 or 2 quarters, and then next thing you know, by the 3rd quarter it opens up. It's something to pay attention to. And I'm not saying that we're going total West Coast, but I wanted to explain it. The 3 pillars of the West Coast offense. Number 1, timing and rhythm. The drop, the quarterback, right? This is the most critical element to any West Coast offense, whether it's West Coast offense hybrid or West Coast offense traditional. The quarterback is not reacting to the receiver. He is throwing to a spot based on his footwork. Now, how often have I gone through and described this Mondays during the game? But post game, we're talking about this stuff, and we constantly get all of this hate towards Jared Goff. That Jared Goff is missing throws or he's not able to throw the ball deep. No, he's throwing the ball to a spot. It's highly dependent on that football player, that receiver, to get to that landmark. And if they're not getting to that landmark, that's when interceptions happens. That's when batted balls happens. That's when drop passes happen. That's when incompletions happen. Now, it's not all on the receiver. Part of it's on the quarterback, too. He has to make a good pass. He has to be in rhythm. The timing has to be right. But more often than not, J-Mo mentioning that he's getting bottled up, getting boxed out, getting pushed off his spot. He's not strong enough to run through the interior. Well, if he's not able to get there on time, it's probably not going to be a completion. So this is entirely based on the quarterback's footwork. The entire offense is timed to the quarterback's feet. Walk with me on this for a moment. You have the 3-step drop, okay? The ball comes out immediately. Slants, hitches. The 5-step drop is the intermediate routes, the digs, the outs. And then you have the 7-step drop, the deeper routes, the posts, the corners. That is how a West Coast offense is designed. The rule is that the ball has to leave the quarterback's hand before the receiver really makes a break. And if the quarterback holds the ball, the play is dead. This relies on trust and anticipation by the quarterback and the receiver. The second pillar to this offense is the horizontal stretch. Old school offenses have tried to stretch the field vertically. Deep bombs. I know I say it often. Damn it, we're not going to the end zone. Forget the red zone, go to the end zone. That's my philosophy. Get that ball down, start pegging the end zone as early as you can when you start entering the 30-yard line. Forget the red zone. The Lions don't do that. Why? Because we've been stuck inside a version of the West Coast offense. Again, old school offenses try to go vertical. Deep bombs. The West Coast offense will stretch you horizontally. It floods the zones with multiple receivers, like the triangle read. If the linebackers start to chase the running backs and tight ends get to the sidelines, which then tires them out, it creates gaps in the middle of the defense. The third pillar is yak, yards after the catch. Because the passes are often short, 5 to 8 yard routes in the air, through the air, the burden is on the receiver to create the big plays. West Coast receivers are often drafted for their ability to run with the ball after the catch. They catch the ball in stride on a slant or a crossing route, they turn 5 into 20. Why this matters for Detroit? Well, in Jared Goff is the prototypical West Coast quarterback. He does not have the strongest arm in the league like Josh Allen, nor is he a runner like Lamar Jackson. However, he is elite at processing, timing, accuracy, and efficiency. The West Coast offense protects the quarterback because the ball comes out fast, negating the pass rush, which Jared Goff has been so good at. That's why he doesn't take very many sacks. However, what we have noticed is Jared Goff holding the ball a little bit more. Why is that? It's because these damn receivers are not getting to their spot. Or someone's freelancing and they've screwed it all up. J-Mo. Drew Petzing's version is similar but different. While Bill Walsh ran that pure West Coast offense, modern coaches like Petzing and Ben Johnson, which, by the way, where did they come from? What school did they go to together?
Boston College.
There you go. Both Ben and Petzing are from Boston College. Now, like Ben Johnson, Petzing does run the Shanahan variation. There it is, people. It's the same freaking offense, which you couldn't see coming out of Arizona because they don't have the players, they don't have the quarterback, and they damn well didn't have the offensive line. And they don't have a two-headed monster like Sonic and Knuckles. So it marries the West Coast passing concepts, the short, the intermediate time throws with the zone run scheme, moving the offensive line in unison. This is why Petzing is considered such a strong fit inside Detroit. He keeps the timing elements of what Goff loves, but adds the power run elements that Campbell loves. Remember, you guys hear the word grit all the time. I'm sick of that word, but it's part of what you're trying to do up front in the trenches. You're trying to impose your will on the other team. Dan Campbell wants to do that. He wants to run the power run game down your throat. So Lions Football 101 in 2026 is going to be the Petzing playbook. And I'm going to define that a little bit next. But now that I've given you that little bit of information about what the West Coast offense is and maybe how that relates to this Detroit Lions team in 2026, have I changed your mind at all?
You can't yet. There's nothing anyone could say to change my mind. I have to hear from the man himself. That is what will change my mind.
What do you want to hear from
him? Everything. I want to hear whether he's going to call plays or whether Dan's going to call plays. I want to hear if he's going to come in and change everything to be his way, or if he's going to melt and do things, a combination of what he did in Arizona and what he wants to do in Detroit with what Dan Campbell wants to do. Or are they just going to run Dan Campbell's offense and he's just going to help with Johnny Moe's role?
Okay. I get it, but I guess what I would say is we're not going to know most of that. I bet when he comes to, and the reason why is because the media is not going to ask the right questions. They never do.
No.
I think if someone fails to ask if he's calling plays, that would be an historic failure. So that question has to get asked. Is he calling plays? The second question that has to be asked is, have you decided what type of an offense? Have you had the conversation? What type of an offense are you going to be bringing to Detroit? The third question is, or maybe even before that, have you and Dan discussed on whether you're using your playbook or a playbook that's going to be collaborated on? These are the questions that need to be asked, and they won't be asked in that way. And I could sit down and write 10, 12, 15 investigative questions out that will help get us the answers, but they're just not going to get asked unless I'm in the room.
Yeah, you just made me think of something. I don't think the playbook is broken in Detroit. I just think it is not utilized in the correct way. It's misused. It was misused in the divisional round last year when the Detroit Lions decide to throw the ball in an empty back set on 3rd and 1 from their own 17. Instead of running the ball up the gut, whether you make a yard or not, you're either going to go for it on 4th down or you're going to kick a field goal. And that was a huge swing in that game. And that was an underutilized playbook. You had the plays in the playbook to win that game. It just was not utilized. You had a offensive coordinator that was thinking about his next job instead of thinking about the task at hand. And I think one thing Dan said before all these interviews is that he's sick and tired of hiring offensive coordinators. He wants to have someone that's going to stay for the long haul. So the fact that this guy is,
I think that was kind of more implied.
Yeah, this guy coming from a team that, wasn't the best. If he comes to Detroit and turns it right around, is he going to get sniffs for head coaching jobs and then we lose another offensive coordinator next year? Or is Dan going to call the plays and this guy's going to stick around for 3 or 4 years and help Dan call the plays?
Yeah, I don't think that you could ever, I don't care if it's McDaniel or anybody else, I don't think that you could ever put a timetable on if a coach is going to stick around. They might come into this and tell you, look, I want to be here for the next 2 to 3 seasons as long as I'm doing my job and we're doing well. I want to, stick in Detroit. That's great until you get the phone call. Right? And the thing about being an offensive coordinator, then there's always an opportunity to move forward.
Yeah, and we look at all this from the lens of fans. We don't look at it from the lens of the actual coaches and these people and these players. So this guy has to uproot his family. I'm sure he has one. They have to move 3/4 of the way across the country, because that's a minimum. If you drive all day and don't stop over a 2-day drive
Who's driving?
from Arizona to Detroit,
Yeah, who's
is what
driving?
I'm saying. Well, the moving van and the moving truck with all the stuff is going to have to move
Yeah,
from
they pay
from
for
there
that
to there.
stuff, man. They don't,
You know,
they don't travel with it.
This isn't a I'm just moving down the street kind of thing. This is you are uprooting your family.
Yeah, more than likely, their family's going to stay in Arizona.
Going from the desert all the way to Detroit.
Yeah, I wouldn't see the family. A lot of families in the NFL, they stay put.
Yeah. So even for him though, this is a big deal,
Mhm.
you know. And we don't really look at that side of things a lot of times.
All right, a couple things in the chat. Then I'll get into the next part here. Is I don't know if he's going to use the bubble screen a ton cruising. It's part of the process. Yes, it just depends. I think that we'll be using some more screen game for sure. The second part is, let's see who just said it.
I'd like to see less passes behind the line of scrimmage.
Well, I would too, unless we have the right pass set up and the right offensive line blocking in front.
Yeah.
I don't like the hitch, the bubble. I really don't. Okay, the question by Tony Detroit says, with a new coach, why would Dan call plays at first? If Dan lets him be, then I will have faith. But what if Dan does not? What do you think? We've kind of discussed this a few times today. Tony Detroit, the thing that like Eric was just mentioning, that there was a press conference with Dan Campbell where he was asked about calling plays in 26, and he said, you know, he doesn't really have the answers, but for the time being, he plans on retaining play calling until further notice. So I'm planning on that until further notice. Even with the new offensive play caller, an offensive coordinator, I should say, not play caller, an offensive coordinator that has a lot of history of calling plays, which he does, Petzing does, I think that would give Dan all the more reason to step back. I think that Dan is a better CEO than he is a play caller. I also feel that Johnny Morton was a complete shit show, so it didn't help in any direction, whether he was game planning, occupying a space in the box for whatever reason, or calling play. It wasn't working out. But for this season, I'm going to have to hit the pause button on that and say, we'll find out. You know, and it doesn't change. It doesn't really change for me on what the success of the team can be. I think that Dan has grown a lot. I think someone else mentioned that in the chat just a minute ago. Dan has definitely grown a lot over the last 5 seasons. He's had to call plays a handful of times. I think that his growth is paramount to this offense being more explosive. And I think that Dan needs to be involved in play calling in camp. And I think he needs to be involved in play calling in preseason. He needs to be able to dial it up. You know, maybe Petzing gets the first group and Dan gets the second group to stay involved. Keep those muscle memory, revolutions going. All right, let's get into the second part of this. So to understand what the Petzing playbook is going to be in Detroit, I think that if you want to sound smart at the next at the bar next season, then you need to change up your philosophy and the words that you use a little bit. And I say that because when you guys are all out at the bar, or you're at the game, or wherever you are watching the game, you hear this a lot. They need to run the ball more. Well, that's a great way of saying, I don't know what they're doing, but they need to do it more. Start asking, why aren't we running more gap schemes? Because that is what Drew Petzing is bringing to Detroit, assuming. Now, Drew Petzing brings a very specific dialect of football in Detroit. It's one that is technical, it's violent, and it is the perfect mix for this roster, my opinion. Here's the breakdown of the core concepts that you might see coming Sundays to your football screen for the Lions. Number one, the gap scheme, which is the foundation. Most NFL teams run zone schemes, where offensive linemen step in unison in area and the running back finds a hole. Petzing prefers gap schemes. Here's the difference. The concept, instead of blocking an area, linemen block down. They make specific angles, which are considered gaps. They make this work, or to make this work, you almost always pull a lineman from the back side to the front side to lead the way. Why it fits in Detroit? Well, the system requires athletic linemen who can move in space. Penei Sewell is probably the best athlete in the game as an offensive tackle, and Petzing will use him as a weapon, pulling him across the formation to annihilate cornerbacks and linebackers, something that we saw with Ben Johnson. We'll see it more with Petzing. However, Eric, I'm going to go back to what I was saying earlier, and I don't know if we ever finished this conversation. Miles Frazier, Christian Mahogany, and Giovanni Manu.
Mm-hmm.
Are these the answers going forward? I was kind of saying I expect us to do something at center. Preferably, Linderbaum would be great. He would. But does he fit the gap scheme? Is he a Frank Ragnow type? I'm going to have to watch film today to find out, because that's how I'm going to figure out if he's going to fit now Drew Petzing's style of the gap scheme. If he's not a pin and pull, or if he's not a guy that you can pull across the backside of the guard, then he may not fit. And that's what you have to identify. So what fans are going to think, right? Most fans are thinking, well, we need to bring in Linderbaum, and we don't. They're going to say Brad failed. But you know what they didn't know? Is they didn't know that maybe Linderbaum wasn't the style of center that you need to run this scheme. Casual fans, people that don't know football, and that I'm not knocking anyone. I'm just saying, as a casual fan, which I was for 40 years of my life, 35 years of my life, I wouldn't have known the difference. But now that I pay a lot more attention to it, and I have for probably the last 10 years, you have to marry up the player to the scheme. You can't just grab any player and throw it into the scheme. It doesn't work. They have to fit it. If you go out and get a 360-pound lineman that doesn't move well, it's not going to fit in this gap scheme. It's not. You're going to have guys that are more athletic at the areas that you need them to be. And it may not be the tackles. Maybe, some of your plays involve the tackles. Maybe some of your plays involve, more of the left guard versus the right guard. So it just depends on what the scheme calls for. You want to be universally versatile, meaning left to right, but we haven't seen what he's going to bring to Detroit, which makes me go back to the Cardinal tape and see what they were doing. So do you see Mahogany and Frazier being the answer at guard, or do you see us really looking at all things?
I do think they're the answer at guard. I just feel they were brought here for a reason, and it's time to step up, put up, or shut up. Get your job done, or we'll find someone else. And that goes for every position on this team.
I'm asking specifically about the scheme, though. The gap scheme, run scheme.
I'm not versed enough to know. I'm really not. I'm not a coach, so I don't know these things. I did find something interesting that I want to ask you about, though.
Okay.
So the Detroit Lions are bringing in Drew Petzing. And what is he most famously known for doing the best? He's known for bringing along his tight end, correct? Mm-hmm. Having a great tight end.
Great tight ends, yeah.
Yeah. So the Detroit Lions lost Tyler Roll, their tight ends coach. He is now the Iowa State offensive coordinator. And so far, we have 0 candidates for the Detroit Lions tight ends coach. Well, it just so happens that Drew Petzing had a tight ends coach by the name of Ben Steele. and he has been the tight ends coach for the Cardinals since March of 2023. So all 3 seasons that Petzing was there, Ben Steele was there. So wouldn't this be a great opportunity for Petzing to bring Ben Steele right along with him to be our new tight ends coach?
Could be. I mean, we're going to have to bring somebody in, but I think that, again, that coaching falls on Dan. Petzing will probably make the, recommendation of somebody that he likes, somebody that he knows the scheme, and that's all part of it. So just like I'm talking about with the offensive linemen having to fit the scheme, your coaches have to fit the scheme. Now, a lot of these guys are well-versed in a lot of different areas, but to be a master at something is totally different. So if you don't fit the scheme, it's going to be pretty hard for you to explain something to your tight ends if you really don't understand it, and if you're learning things for the first time. Whereas if you've been with Petzing and you have history in what he does, it's a lot easier. So I would say, I think that there's a great opportunity for that. We'll see where that goes. I haven't heard anything on that front as far as us filling other positions. And to your point, that could be, the reason why is you're waiting for the offensive coordinator shoe to drop first, which is done.
Yep.
So now the Lions actually have an advantage of being able to fill the rest of their roster. We might see other coaching changes.
So far that is the only offensive coordinator assistant that we need to take care of. But you've had Kelvin Shepard. He did not end up getting that head coaching job. You have David Shaw, who is still up for the offensive coordinator position with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jet Mawkins, he interviewed to be the special teams coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Jim O'Neill, he interviewed to be the new defensive coordinator for the Jets. So there's still a possibility 2 or 3 more assistants could leave to get coordinator positions.
Yeah, let me
So we might have to fill a few more positions if some of our guys get some promotions.
Okay, so continuing on here with the offensive line and the run concept here, the trenches are, obviously a very, very big part of this, but the gap scheme, which is the foundation to this style of an offense, number one, like I said, the concept, like most teams run the zone schemes. The Lions are more than likely going to run the gap scheme. And why this fits in Detroit, again, is, utilizing players like Penei Sewell, who are highly athletic individuals. I don't firmly believe just yet that Miles Frazier and Christian Mahogany are the answer for that style just yet. Going to have to go look a little bit more at what they did at the college level. To your point, Eric, where you say, well, they were brought in for a reason. Well, they were brought in for a reason prior to all of this going down. And so that, I'm not saying we're walking away from any of these guys, but this is where I see them becoming more backups. It's been my theory all year, all off season for us, that I see Mahogany, Miles Frazier, and Manu all being the primary backups, and the Lions go out and find a all-pro left guard, someone better at left tackle. Taylor Decker's not it. I don't see Taylor Decker pulling and creating, lanes for Gibbs in Montgomery. I just don't see it. Not with that shoulder. So you're going to need to do something at left tackle. And then, of course, center. I don't think that Ratledge is the answer. I think that would just be silly. And Ratledge does fit the pulling style of a guard. He is absolutely athletic enough to get out there and do it in space. So that does fit him. And he will come into 2026 in much better shape, ready to fly. Then you have the big three. The big 3 gap runs. What are they? You have the power, which is the staple. You have the counter, which is misdirection. And then you have the duo, which is the bully play. When we talk about, bully football, bully ball, as I call it, that's what duo is all about. The staple, though, in power gap run style, the concept is simple. The backside guard pulls around to lead the hole, right? Everyone else blocks down to create a wall. So it is the most physical play in football, is the pulling guard. So that means your left and your right guard need to be able to do it. Well, I'm good with Tate. Now I need to analyze Frazier and Mahogany for whoever is going to be that left guard this season to see how well they, can maximize the pulling concept for the staple, which is the power gap run or power gap scheme. The counter, misdirection. This offensive style requires the offense stepping one direction, faking a zone run, but two players, usually it's a guard and a tackle or a guard and tight end, pull back the other way. So you see the offensive line go to the right, guard, tight end, go the other way, right? They pull back, go the other way. This forces linebackers to freeze, and it creates massive lanes for Jahmyr Gibbs to explode through. We've seen it under Ben Johnson. We'll get back to that. So now you need tight ends that are competent or a tackle, which is Penei Sewell. He's already competent. And I don't think you want to limit yourself on the counter or misdirection options by not having a left tackle that doesn't do it. So when you see a tight end lined up on the outside of Taylor Decker or two tight ends, you now might have one of those tight ends pulling with the guard as opposed to Taylor Decker, who's crashing down to the right or crashing to the left, whatever, right? Crashing to the left, guys are going the other way. The duo, this is the power without the puller. The offensive line creates massive double teams on the defensive tackles, physically moving them backward into the linebackers. It forces the running back to read the middle linebacker primarily. If the Mike linebacker steps left, the back cuts right. It is pure brute force and recognition. As soon as that ball is snapped, your focus is on the linebacker as the running back, and that's making the decision for you. Then you have the third major concept inside this scheme, which is the pin pull. This is the space creator. It's one of my favorite plays in football. You will hear this term often with Jahmyr Gibbs. The concept is fairly simple. If a defender is lined up directly over an offensive lineman, then that lineman blocks him and pins him. If the defender is in the gap, then the lineman pulls around him. They literally will skip over him. The result is it gets your big men, Sewell, Ratledge, whoever our new center is, out on the edge running full speed. So it's usually a tackle and a center in this case for the pin pull. But it gets them out on the edge running full speed against 190-pound corners or safeties, right? Sometimes a linebacker. And then you have the fourth concept or the fourth phase inside this concept, marrying the run to the pass. Now, this is the phase that you're going to hear every broadcaster use in the Petzing system. And it isn't just a buzzword. It is literally geometrical requirement for the scheme. Marrying the run to the pass. You're going to hear it often. The illusion is this. In a bad offense, the run play looks like runs and pass plays look like passes. In Petzing system, or what Ben Johnson was able to do very well, the mixology, the first 1.5 seconds of a play action pass must look identical to the duo and power run. It has to look like a run. The linemen fire out with the same low pad level. The quarterback uses the same exact footwork. Why? Your linebackers are keyed in on the quarterback and the footwork, and they're all looking down. What's he doing? Right? They're focusing. If everything looks the same, that linebacker, bang, they're going to come up or freeze. The conflict, it puts the linebackers in conflict the most, and that's where you take the advantage in the run game. He sees the guard pull, signaling run. So he steps up, fills that hole, and by the time he realizes the guard is actually pass blocking, it's too late. The tight end, Sam Laporta, usually in this case, has already slipped behind him. Easy 15-yard catch. This is how you manufacture open receivers for Jared Goff. How many times we see Sam Laporta slip right behind the Sam linebacker on a seam rip is beautiful. I love that play. It's such a fun play to watch. One of the last pieces to this is the modern West Coast offense that I think that Petzing is bringing to this. How does it look? So finally, I think that you tie it all together. What is the West Coast label in Detroit? Well, you have the traditional West Coast, again, that relies on the short horizontal passes, slants, flats, replace the run game. It was finesse-based. And then you have the Petzing Shanahan West Coast hybrid system. This system keeps the West Coast passing concept, timing, rhythm, horizontal stretch, but it also pairs them with a violent gap scheme run system that I've already described. Why it matters, especially for Jared Goff, it simplifies the quarterback's world. The heavy run game forces defenses to play single high safety looks, which will stop the run, but it exposes the pass. How often do you see us in single high safety getting burned, getting torched? That's why I hate single high safety. This gives Goff clear, defined reads. If the corner stays low, throw the deeper route. If he bails deep, you're going to throw the short route. It turns the quarterback into more of a distributor, right? As opposed to having to be this magician where, I think Jared Goff really thrives in being just a high-level operator, just a technician, just surgically finding the route and what the best route is. The trenches, assessing the personnel fit. Here's the research that I did where I said that I was going to get. Detroit does. We actually have the bodies to run this gap heavy system to a degree. The short answer, I guess, to the question is, do we have the bodies? The short answer is yes. But do we need someone better? And again, my short answer is probably yes. Based on what I've already explained with the modern West Coast hybrid offense that we're bringing, marrying the run to the pass, the pin and pull concepts that we've used heavily under Ben Johnson, the power, the counter, the duo, which all of us love, the duo, I think. What is your thought process on this scheme so far for Petzing? I know you said no one can change your mind, but is it starting to sound like a system that you want to see in Detroit?
Well, yeah, it has to be a system that everyone's going to want to see in Detroit. Otherwise, I don't think Dan and Brad would have brought this guy in. So they know something. They know that this guy's going to be a fit, that he's going to bring the right system with him. And now, my biggest question is, are we going to his system, or is his system coming here to blend with our system, or are we staying in the system we're currently in and he's just going to run what we already have?
Do you know what the answer is?
A blend of all three?
Yes, yes, yes.
So that's how is it going to fit? How is it going to work? We don't know. We got to wait and see. That's the only thing we can do is wait and see. I'm going to let him speak for himself. I'm going to let his actions speak for themselves. And I'm not going to pass judgment on this guy one way or the other until I see what he does.
Okay.
Because last year I got ahead of the ball. I thought Johnny Morton was going to be the savior. I thought he was going to be the next Ben Johnson. I thought everything was going to be okie dokie. And then the wheels fell off as soon as the season started.
The wheels on the bus didn't go round and round. God, I hated that whole thing, man. As soon as I heard he was going up in the box, I knew something wasn't going to work.
But even when we went to training camp, our offense looked amazing.
Defense looked crazy good.
Yeah, I mean, everything just looked off the charts. Amazing. And then you get to game one and it's like, where's the training camp version? It just all went to hell in a handbasket week one. So I thought I was over the moon for Johnny Morton last year. We could probably go back to when he was hired and look at what we said, whether we thought it was going to be a good hire or not. I'm guessing we were like, yeah, I'm on board. This is awesome.
What? We're gonna have to look. So you're gonna have to look through the channel tonight and see if you can figure out.
Okay.
It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see. Look through, go back a year and see what we find out.
Search the channel for Johnny Morton. I'll look right now.
I don't know. Sometimes it's tough. But anyway, I'll finish this up here in just a few minutes. So I want to get into the trenches, like I said. I had to get that question in there to see if your mind is changing yet. I know it's not going to. So the trenches to me is the big question here. when you're bringing in this gap scheme, this, again, I'm assuming that we're bringing in his system because it is the system that we pretty much used with Ben Johnson. We have to be honest about that. You're bringing in a guy that is coming to Detroit with a system that we did use. I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but I'm trying to drive it home. If we were very successful under Ben Johnson, was it Ben Johnson or was it the scheme? The scheme. The players executing is the answer. Learning how to dial up the plays and mix those plays in and out, that takes true talent. And being able to understand where your shortfalls are, your weaknesses are, and your strengths are, that is, again, a talent and how to figure out how to call plays. And I'm hoping that with Petzing's knowledge, experience, and this roster that's full of Ferraris, he should be able to do that a lot better in Detroit. Should be in the caveat. I don't know. Unfortunately for me, there's some players on this roster, speaking in terms of the offensive line, that don't fit. So the old guard, I think, is going to have to be a transition point here. I think we have to acknowledge that the reality is that Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow, while they have been the heartbeat of this offensive line at different stages, Graham Glasgow back in 17, 18, Graham Glasgow just a couple of seasons ago, I mean, he had a huge year for us, flipping from left guard to right guard to center all throughout the season, and played extremely well. I don't care about his PFF grades, but he played extremely well when we needed him to perform for a player that was down. Unfortunately, I think 26 feels like a pivot point. Decker's game has always been about technical consistency. But as a gap scheme in the requirement to be a lineman to pull and move laterally more often, I think his age, his injuries are a big factor here. I think that Glasgow being a pure phone booth type of brawler, which is exactly what he is. He to a T, Glasgow loves to fight you in the phone booth. He fits the duo calls perfectly, but I think he's going to lack the explosive footwork and foot speed that Petzing is going to prefer on those pin and pull sweeps. To use a shark reference for that reason, I'm out. Unfortunately, I think Decker and Glasgow, which it's not a surprise. If you guys listen to the channel enough, please subscribe right now if you haven't yet already. The draft work is coming. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be a lot of great information. It won't be as low and slow as this. We're having a long conversation about how the scheme could fit with Petzing. And I'm doing this because I see all the fallout, and I'm trying to get people to understand that there's really some good stuff happening here. Decker and Glasgow, I don't think fit this. It doesn't mean that either one of those guys can't be retained as backups. I don't see that happening, though. I see Glasgow being a backup more than Decker. I see Decker retiring. But you do have a young core, and they are built for violence. This is where Brad Holmes' recent draft strategy looks prophetic to me, where a lot of you thought it was pathetic. They missed the draft. What the hell was Brad Holmes doing drafting Giovanni Manu? What was he doing grabbing Mahogany? And you could have grabbed somebody else. You could have had an edge rusher. You could have had a defensive tackle. Why are you doing this, Brad? Now you see why. He's preparing for the future. He's preparing for the inevitable. How do you know? I don't. Another great question that won't be asked. Brad, 3 seasons ago, did you ever think that you were going to have to change your offensive scheme? Did you ever think that you were going to have to go to something different because the ebb and flow of the NFL today, oftentimes you lose really good coordinators and you're drafting guys that you're potentially planning on leaving. So you're drafting guys that could fill for the next scheme that you're going to try to develop. I wonder what that answer would be. I wonder if he'd even really give you an answer. But anyway, The recent draft strategy looks prophetic. He didn't just draft linemen. Brad drafted Petzing style of maulers. Look at Tay Rowledge. Perfect fit. He is a gap scheme native. At Georgia, he played in a pro style of offense that majored in counter and power. His scouting profile was defined by his anchor and ability to maul in tight spaces. He isn't a finesse zone blocker. He is a road grader designed to down block on a 3-tech defensive tackle, exactly what Petzo's duo plays require. Christian Mahogany, Boston College. The fit, if you build a guard in a lab for Drew Petzing, it would be Mahogany. I tried to set you guys up a little bit ago. I tried to set you up, Eric, but you didn't fall for it. His college tape at Boston College was filled with gap runs. He was described by scouts as the bouncer outside of a nightclub. A player who thrives on pulling around the edge and just burying those linebackers in space. He is the ideal puller for the Power O. He plays with this nasty mean streak, and we've seen it, the dirtbag. I think that in this style of an offense, his position will be defined. Then you have Miles Frazier, LSU. Frazier is the depth piece right now. And he's going to have to fight it out with Mahogany, honestly. But he fits the physical profile. At LSU, he excelled in tight spaces. He showcased the ability to execute short pulls, not long pulls. While he may not be the elite athlete that Sewell is, he has very heavy hands, and he has the ability to displace defenders that also make him a natural fit for the duo concept, where moving a man from point A to point B is the only requirement. So do we have the players? I think that we have a very good start. Tate fits it to a T. Christian Mahogany fits it to a T-. And Miles Frazier, I think, has a little bit of work to do, and largely because of his speed. When you look at Miles Frazier's speed, he runs about a 5 1/4 40. That's a requirement. We have to look at his short shuttle speeds and his burst. Mahogany is not that much faster. He runs about a 5 1/8, like 5.10, 5.13. He's in that space. His 10-yard split's a 1.74. Miles Frazier, his 10-yard split's a 1.79. Those 0.02 of a second are not going to separate you, but it's that 10-yard split that matters. How fast you're getting out to the outside. The good thing is Miles Frazier, 27 reps on the bench, 31-inch vertical, 9-foot broad, 3 cones, 7.76. For Mahogany, 32.5-inch vert, 9.1 broad, 7.81 in the 3 cone, which is just a tad bit slower than Frazier. 20-yard shuttle, 4.53. I did not have a 20-yard shuttle on Frazier. And the bench press, I didn't have that number right away for Mahogany. Point is, I think that Mahogany and Ratledge would be okay. Ratledge would be great. Sewell, phenomenal. Frazier's got some work to do. And then there's Manu. Now, I haven't fully worked up my Manu take yet because I need to find some tape of college for him, which is going to be tough. And I should reach out to the guy that we had on last year from UBC, his recruiter, to see what he thinks about Manu. Now, I do know this about Manu. He is very athletic. He's big. He's strong. And I think that he'll be able to pull. I see him being more of that rotational tackle that we often utilize. Like, it's going to work, I guess is what I see from Manu, but I need to see more. Verdict for me is this. The transition from a zone heavy day, they're kind of done with. We've been using a lot of zone. Petzing's gap scheme is going to be new. It's going to be improved. I think it's going to solve a lot of problems for us in the run game. While losing the leadership of Decker and Glasgow is going to hurt initially, I think that Penei Sewell will take over that room like he already has, and it'd be utilized as the ultimate weapon, but he's going to lead this next wave of this offensive line dominance for the next couple of seasons, and I think that we are going to be better suited with the offensive line that we're going to build this year and this style of a run game, this style of an offensive scheme, Petzing for the win, I think it's going to work just fine. Eric, what do you think?
It has to work.
Well, we don't have a choice, but it's going to work.
Yeah. I'm not going to pass judgment on the dude like I told you. I want to take a wait and see approach before I'm not going to count my chickens, I want to see this guy do something before I pass any judgment. I want to make sure that this guy's got his ducks in a row. What if he shows up and he's a complete misfit? I don't know. What if he shows up and he just blows me away? That's what I want to see. There's three kinds of people online right now talking about this guy. And while you were talking, I've been looking at a lot of different things. People that absolutely hate it, think this is the worst SOL take ever. People that are 50-50 like me, they're just going to wait and see. And then there's people that absolutely love this hire. And I don't think any of us are right now. And there's no way to prove that any of us are right until we see the product on the field. So I don't want to get caught with egg on my face on this one like I did with Johnny Morton. And I did find the two Johnny Morton videos. I sent them to you in an email.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not worried about being right or wrong. I mean, the difference between what I do and what you do is I do heavy research and know the X's and O's. That's a big difference between us is,
yes,
I'm more of the cerebral football. I understand the schemes. I do the research on the guys. I'm not really worried about being wrong because even if it is a perfect match, even if McDaniel came in and you're like, let me just ask you, if McDaniel was hired, what would you say?
I wasn't really a big fan of McDaniel.
Okay. So who was your number one guy?
Zach Robinson.
Okay. So if Zach Robinson came in, would your take be the same today that you have to still see it?
Probably not.
See, I think that it would be. Because I think you're that style of an individual that you really want to see it without
was
throwing
the one
it.
Guy he was the one guy I thought was going to get the job.
Okay,
he was the one in my mind that.
So let me push against you for just a moment. I don't mean any disrespect. Okay, if you would have had that answer to Zach Robinson that I think it's going to work, and then it doesn't, and you get egg on your face. Right. Yeah. For whatever that's your term. I guess I don't see the difference with a guy that we really don't know Petzing how it's going to work. We really don't know with Zach Robinson how it's going to work because at the end of the day, I think it's the same philosophy. We have to see exactly what scheme they're going to run. We have to see exactly what they're going to do with the offensive line. We don't know what they're doing with Demo. We don't know what they're doing with Khalif Raymond. We don't know a lot of things yet with the roster. So I think there's always going to be a lot of things that we don't know. And in time we will know. But if you're all headstrong on Robinson and it would have worked and your take today would have been, I think it's going to work. I honestly feel that you would have had the same take today.
I don't think so because Zach Robinson had previously worked with Jared Goff and the way he worked with Bijan Robinson, I really liked Atlanta. I really liked Atlanta's offense, the way they used the tight end. I liked the way that they ran the ball. And I liked that he had previously worked with Jared Goff in LA. So I thought that would have been the perfect marriage to bring in here. So there must have been something that Petzing did a lot better than Zach. I would really, really be interested to know how close Zach Robinson was with Petzing, if those were the two guys that they were.
I mean, did we even interview Zach Robinson?
Yes.
When?
Let me see.
I don't remember hearing about that. But Robbie, clarify your statement in there because I don't know what exactly you're talking about. I guess for me, I'm not worried about being wrong because there's one thing that I do know. No matter who you bring in, the offensive execution is reliant on the players. That's where it all has to happen. If the players don't execute, it doesn't matter who you have. You could have Jesus Christ leading your offense. If the players don't execute, it don't matter. Now, he might be able to part, the offensive line and allow you to run through it and all that good stuff, but that'd be cheating. You get what I'm saying, right? Like, for me, it doesn't matter who's there. I think what matters is that the players have to fit the scheme. And the players have to be able to execute at a high level for anything to work. And unfortunately, the coach, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, they all get crapped on because they're the ones that are looked to the most. Why? Because your wide receiver had a 14-yard year. There's no way it could have been his fault. Well, St. Brown dropped a lot of balls this year. St. Brown had a lot of problems this year. JMO, dropped a lot of balls this year too. So there's a lot of things that could be said against the players, a lot of things that could be said against offensive coordinators and coaches, but unfortunately, I think that poop rolls downhill and it always lands in their lap first, and then the players get absolved. And I think it's totally wrong. I think it's bass-ackwards. I think you have to look to the players first. There's always going to be the sacrificial lamb, and it's always a coach. It always is. In this case, I think that Dan Campbell made the right decision twice by axing Lynn and taking over play calling from Morton. I think that what that shows you, or at least it should make you feel a little bit better about the fact that Dan Campbell recognized there was a problem. He wasn't going to let it fester for 2 or 3 seasons and try to fix it. Nope, not my level. You are not operating to the standard. You're done. That I love about Dan. So for people saying that Dan made a mistake, the hell he did. Dan fixed something right away. Now, did we win enough games? No. But I think you have to look around the room a little bit and say, who underperformed? What players underperformed? Who didn't execute? And that requires film work. So unless you're going back and watching a bunch of film, it's really difficult to say who did or didn't execute at a high level. And I have to say, Eric, I believe that 99% of fans don't go back and watch film. That's why they turn on ESPN. That's why they listen to First Take. That's why they listen to Pat McAfee. And that's hopefully why they're going to listen to Rockhound Detroit Lions and the Rise and Grind Morning Show, because that's what I do. I watch a lot of film.
To do it for you.
Exactly. But I think that, for you, man, it's your reservations with Petzing is, I get it. I totally get it. Hopefully I was able to make some sense today of what I see happening. Again, all of this is based on what his history has been and how it marries up to our players currently today. There's going to be some change, as we know. The Giovanni Manu comment, and this will be my last comment. I'll hand it over to you. The Giovanni Manu comment saying like Brad has failed on Manu and Hooker and who else? Broderick Martin and Josh Pascal. Look, if that's all that Brad has missed in 5 drafts, we're good. Let me rub that in one more time. We're good, because more GMs are missing way more than what Brad has. Brad has brought 8 All-Pro, 9 All-Pro, Pro Bowl type players now. I think the first 4 draft picks out of 23 have all been All-Pro at this point. I think he's doing pretty solid. Hooker, you needed a backup quarterback, and there was no other quarterback in that entire draft after the first pick that did anything. So he didn't just miss. Every other team missed too. Every team that took a quarterback missed. If you look back at Manu, you can call it a project, but again, 3rd round picks do not start in the NFL more than 15.9% over the last 15 years. So calling it a project or a developmental player, which is what he really is, now you can look to this and say, I see it now. He runs a 4.81 40, Eric, as a 360-pound, 6'7" lineman.
That's a weapon.
A 4.81, which is faster. Hell, he runs the same speed as Aiden Hutchinson. He run a 4.87 or 4.78. He's just as fast as Aiden. Maybe he should be a defensive end. But running a 4.81 is insane. So, I think that we have a weapon. I think that we have the ability to see the difference this year. 33.5-inch vertical for Manu. He had a knee injury, man. You can't blame players for knee injuries. You can't blame Brad for players getting injured. Because if that's the case, I mean, hell, we've had 50 some odd injuries in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, but fans can blame the Ford Field turf. They can blame Sheila. They can blame the training staff and the medical staff. Oh my God. Injuries happen. It's part of the game. They're gladiators. They're going to get hurt.
Yeah. The offense is going to get fixed. Yeah. The offensive line will be fixed. I guarantee you, we know Brad Holmes does one thing well. He's gone after trenches in every draft. It has typically been the first pick. It's always been trenches. I'm pretty positive. I'll hand it over to you. I'm going to look that up.
Except for Terry and Arnold. Okay, so I want to remind people of a little something. So if we just go back and we're going to rewind back to 2020, and this was the year before 3-13-1, and this was Matt Patricia's last year and his 3rd season. The Detroit Lions were 5-11. The year before, they were 3-12. Or 3-12-1. The year before, they were 6-10. So in 3 seasons, we had 14 wins. In 2024, in 1 season, the Detroit Lions had 15 wins. The Lions are doing something right. We went from having the most cash-strapped, horrible roster in the NFL. We had so much dead money. We were paying for more dead money to players that were not on our team than any other team in the NFL. We had probably the worst roster in the entire NFL when Brad and Dan took this over. They had to assemble a wide receiver crew of a 4th-round rookie and a bunch of misfits. And Khalif Raymond, who was known more as a special teamer than he was a wide receiver, had to come in and basically be our number 1 wide receiver. And for the first half of that season, you know, Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 4th-round pick that nobody thought was going to do anything, didn't do anything, and then he started coming on. But my point in all of this is Brad and Dan have this team on a trajectory to do great things. For the first time in my lifetime, we've put together 4 winning seasons in a row. Before that, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a whole bunch of losing seasons. You know, when Jim Caldwell was here, we had 2 9-7 seasons and an 11-5 season. When Jim Schwartz was here, we had 1 10-win season. And before that, you know, so we had 2 double-digit win seasons, an 11-5 and a 10-6. That was Jim Schwartz and Jim Caldwell. And before that, I mean, you look back for the last, all the way back to 1995 with Bobby Ross or with Wayne Fonts, you had 10-6. So all the way back to 95. So from 95 to 2011 and 2014, you had 3 winning seasons with double-digit wins until the Lions did it in 23. And they did it in 23 and 24 and almost did it again this year. They're one win away from being double-digit wins again. So anybody that thinks that Brad and Dan don't know what they're doing and they're getting it wrong, just pause for a little while. Let's see what this guy can do. Brad and Dan are not dummies. They're doing things that no one has ever done in the history of the Detroit Lions. So have a little bit of faith in our guys, and let's see what happens.
You know what makes me excited the most, Eric?
What's that?
Is that we're entering year 6,
Mm-hmm.
and we have not had a GM and coach replacement.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
That is a win in and of itself, that we have cohesion. There wasn't even a bat of an eye by Sheila or Brad at the end of the season, considering that Dan Campbell was going to be exited from the team. And you knew that immediately in the postgame. Dan Campbell was already speaking of the future. He knew his job was fine. He knew he wasn't going anywhere. That tells you that they already had the communication. They already had the conversation. What are we doing? Are we on the right plane or not? And the answer is yes. I get it. A lot of Lions fans are disgruntled, old and unhappy, or older, aged and unhappy that we haven't won a Super Bowl. Well, there's a couple other teams that haven't either. And to watch the Bills continually go in and get exited, I guess what would make you feel better? That you make it to the playoffs and you exit like the Bills have been doing year in and year out? That you make it to the playoffs and you exit like the Ravens have every single year, except this year? But yet we need to replace Jared Goff with a mobile quarterback. Who's leading the league this year? The guy that I said was going to resurrect his career last year in Minnesota, the same guy that I said was going to have another dominant year this year in Seattle, Sam Darnold.
Yep.
One of the most unathletic quarterbacks starting for any NFL team.
So we have 2 pocket passers left in the NFC. We have Sam Darnold and you have Matt Stafford. Neither one of them have wheels. Okay. Then you look at the AFC. You have Drake May, who is kind of mobile. He can get around when he wants to. So he's the only mobile quarterback left. And then you have Stidham for Denver, who is another. He's going to be a pocket passer. Okay. And Bo Nix, he was I consider a mobile quarterback. So the AFC has mobile quarterbacks left. The NFC has pocket passers. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? Is it going to be the AFC or the NFC this year?
Oh, it's Seattle.
It's going to be Seattle. Seattle's going to crush the Rams. They're going to crush whoever they play, probably the Patriots. I picked the Patriots in the I was going to pick Denver, but now with Stidham, I can't. I just can't justify it.
God, that would be crazy.
God, that'd be awesome.
I wonder what the bet is, because you might as well just place a bet.
Well, I did, but
of course you did.
Yes, I made one both ways. But let me see here.
So if you go back and you look at like Drake May, his rushing yards this year, I mean, he's had a couple of good games, 66, 50, 62, 28, 45, 31, definitely dual threat type quarterback.
Yeah.
But his first option is pass. And in his completion percentage, where's he at? Where's his total completion percentage? Why is there not a total? Here you go. 69.8% over the last 2 seasons, 72% this year. You know what? Let me take this a bit further. Who else? We got Sam Darnold. Sorry, I didn't mean to go into this, but this would be 5 minutes in and out.
You know what? So the Patriots are 5.5 point favorites over the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, if you take them on the money line, is plus 210.
Well, I was hoping that there would be some sort of a bet that's just Stidham, like him winning a Super Bowl.
Oh God,
that would have to be crazy.
Let's see to win the Super Bowl. Let's see. Oh, they're not even putting on there now.
Oh, they're in the casinos, I'm sure.
So the Denver Broncos are plus 1,100.
Huh.
So if you put a $10 bet on it, you get $110 back.
Oh, there you go. You could put $1,000 on it. Be a good bet.
get 100 to 1. So
This would be 100 grand.
Seahawks. The Seahawks, if you put $10 on it, you get $14.50 back.
All right. So does that include your bet?
Yeah. So you make $4.50
Yeah.
on a $10 bet.
So just something quick. It's just something to chew on. Drake May, 72% completion percentage this year. And he's taken a ton of sacks, 47. And he's thrown, where's his interceptions? Why doesn't that show interceptions on this? I'm in a system I don't normally use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 interceptions on the season. So a winning combination. Sam Darnold has a completion percentage this year, 67.7. Last year, 66.2. His highest completion numbers ever in his career combined, he's pitching about a 67% flat completion percentage. This year, he's been sacked 27 times, half as much as Drake May. He's only thrown 14 interceptions. Last year, 12. Winning combination, right? And then we look at Matthew Stafford. Stafford, 65% completion, 4,700 yards, 46 TDs, only 8 interceptions. And he's been sacked only 23 times. And then if you go and look at Caleb Williams. Sorry, I had to go there. Can't stand this punk. Caleb Williams. This is why he will not win anything ever. 58.1% completion percentage.
Yeah, he was the worst in the NFL.
There was 2 backup quarterbacks that had better stats than him.
Do you remember?
Hold on, 24 sacks. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. Interceptions on the season. What did he do? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that also includes, I think there's 12 there. That includes the regular season. He doesn't throw a ton of interceptions just yet, but he throws them at the wrong time. That's when he throws them. He throws them at the wrong time. You can't win with a quarterback that has a 58% completion percentage, that runs around the field like a chicken with his head cut off, and then wings a pass and gets lucky 7, 8 times a season. It's not a winning formula. It's not. Yes, big leap from 23 to 20, or from 24 to 25. But I don't see any growth in completion percentage. I see regression. I don't see any growth in leadership. I see regression. It's not, the fact that he's just screaming at his teammates on the sideline in that first playoff game, that's not what you do, man. The fact that they're even out there playing for the dude, well, they're not anymore. I'm surprised. Sacks this year, he took 24. Huge difference from last year. He took 68. Offensive line was catalyst to that. I got another question we'll get into tomorrow. Speaking of the teams that are left. But anyway, let's end the day. What's on your mind?
All right.
Finish it.
Well, everybody, just give Petzing a chance. Let's see what the guy's got. Don't just jump all over him. We don't know anything yet. Everybody be good. Stop being SOL.
Everyone behave, right?
Yeah, Jesus. Let's all be adults. Let's have a conversation, and we'll get to it in the end. But the only thing we can do is wait and see what happens.
All right, tomorrow morning, I want to talk about playoffs. The teams that are left, we'll kind of go over that. There's 3, 4, 5, 6 buckets that we're going to dip into. 3 of them that I'm very passionate about. Hopefully, I was able to make some sense of Petzing today and to look at 108 votes here. I gave you guys 4 options. Where are you now in the like or dislike phase of Drew Petzing? You get your opportunity to change your vote now after everything that I've said. Are you 50-50? Are you warming up to it? Do you still hate it? Or are you going to give them a chance? Well, 50-50, 17%. I'm warming up to it, 21%. That's a big number compared to where we started. I still hate it, 16%. And I'm going to give Petzing a chance, 47%. With that, that means we are 70 or 84% in favor. We're borderline or in favor of Petzing.
That they're not in favor of it. Yeah.
That they are in favor of it.
Yeah. There's only 16% that are like, bleh. And those are the vocal people, the ones that are, oh, that's the worst hire ever.
Yeah.
Yada, 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 yada. I can't be in that bucket. I can't, but I could be in that bucket. It just depends on what happens over the next 6-8 months. Got to see it first.
Well, yeah, I think it's part of it. I will say this, man. If you haven't subscribed, please do it now. We have tons of great conversations like this. We want more people to know about it. Share it with a friend. Send it to a family member. Whatever you got to do. Share it at work with all your Lions fans. Just let them know, man. 8 to 10 a.m. at least. We're here Monday through Friday. We don't take very many days off. And the video content will start to roll again. I am going to open up the other channel again with more video content, the channel that I just kind of let die. And get it rolling. This channel's been mostly live shows and a few videos. I need to get the videos out on the other channel like I planned on. I was going to do it backwards, but I didn't. There'll be some changes for this season, and we're just going to keep motoring. Don't forget, DetroitFootballJournal.com. Subscribe now. If you want your free 6-month subscription, you'll get the majority of all the draft work for free and some specialized draft videos and content that won't be seen anywhere else. DetroitFootballJournal.com, email only, no credit card unless you really want to support the channel or support the publication. Just sign up for free. I'll upgrade you 6 months on me. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Stay warm. Stay off the roads unless you absolutely need to go out. My wishes, thoughts, prayers, everybody out in the Zealand area in the 100-car pileup. I don't know how many injuries there were. I don't know if there was any deaths, but what a wicked situation. So stay off the roads unless you have to go somewhere. Enjoy the day, man. Petzing is locked in for the Detroit Lions. The scheme that we wanted the most is coming back to Detroit. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Go in pride.
Pressured by Hutchinson.